And on the mound for the Mets here today on a cool day, very cool day, temperature in the 60s, but a sunny day. It'll be Ron Darling. Ron with a record of 15-6 last year, an earned run average of 2.81. Ron worked a total of 237 innings last year, gave up 203 hits, 81 walks, 184 strikeouts, and so far this spring he is 0-1 with an earned run average of 7.78. Ron Darling on the mound for the Mets.
And the lineup for the visiting Cardinals, even though this is their home park. Now figure that one out. Willie McGee, the center fielder, leading off. Ozzie Smith, the shortstop, batting second. And Tommy Herr, the second baseman, hitting third. Jack Clark, who was lost for 93 games by the Cardinals last year, back in there playing first base and hitting fourth. Jim Lindemann, what a spring he's having with 6 home runs, will play right field and bat fifth. Tony Pena, that's right, Tony Pena, the catcher, formerly with the Pittsburgh Pirates, batting sixth. Tito Landrum, the left fielder, batting seventh. Terry Pendleton, the third baseman, hitting eighth. And Danny Cox on the mound.
And the defense for the Mets, it's Keith Hernandez at first base, Wally Backman playing second base, the shortstop Rafael Santana, and at third base Howard Johnson. In left field, Kevin McReynolds. In right field, we have Darryl Strawberry. In between, in center field, Len Dykstra. The catcher for the ball game, Gary Carter, and Ron Darling on the mound. You know, Tim, talking about the catching position of the Cardinals, as you look at Davey Johnson, the manager of the New York Mets, Tony Pena, defensively one of the best in the game, and it should help the Cardinals.
It really should. He came to the St. Louis Cardinals last week, or I should say this week, the middle of this week, where Andy Van Slyke, a fine young prospect by the name of Mike Dunn, and catcher Mike LaValliere. But it was really a good trade for the Cardinals.
And the leadoff batter for the Cardinals, Willie McGee, who dropped off 100 points last year from leading the National League, hit 256 last season with 7 home runs, 48 RBIs. So far this spring, he's been up 5 times with 1 hit. He is trying to get back in shape from a knee operation. Willie McGee. McGee, of course, one of the best switch hitters in the game of baseball, and certainly a very, very speedy man. And Darling with a split-finger fastball that has become a famous pitch. The split-finger fastball, really a variation of what was called the forkball. And the fastball right there is low. 1 ball, 2 strikes. McGee leading the National League in the MVP 2 years ago, batting .363, and this ball popped up into left field. A breezy day, and Kevin McReynolds hauls it in. So 1 away as Darling gets his first man, and that'll bring up Ozzie Smith. Ozzie, a .280 hitter last year with no home runs, 54 RBIs, 31 stolen bases. And this winter he was on a weightlifting program to beef up his strength, and he's looking for some extra base hits. And that's ball 1.
Hasn't worked yet. He's only batting .233 down here, but Ozzie off is by far his best offensive season.
.280 year last year, and there's a pitch for a ball, and the count 2 balls, no strikes. Ozzie has had 14 hits this spring and 60 at-bats, hitting .233 with no home runs and 2 runs batted in. He does have 6 stolen bases. In the regular season last year, he had 31. He's 6 for 6 in stolen bases this spring. And ball 4, so Smith is on first base right out of the ball game. That'll bring up Tommy Herr, also a very bad year last year off a great year the year before, batted over 300 2 years ago when the Cardinals were the National League champions. Last year he hit .252, 2 home runs, 61 RBIs.
Tommy admitting last year that when the Cardinals broke camp that he was overweight, feeling the effects of the Cardinals' loss to the Kansas City Royals in the 1985 season, or series, World Series. And I think that affected the whole Cardinal ball club when they broke camp. Of course, they broke camp last year without the services of Danny Cox as a starting pitcher today. They didn't have Joaquin Andujar, who won 20 games for the Cardinals in '85.
Cardinals finished 3rd last year with a record of 79 and 82 as Smith gets some more attention. They finished 28.5 games back in the Mets. When Whitey Herzog said, "How are you going to make it up?" He said we already have because we all start even at 0-0 this year.
Tuesday, to be exact, the Cardinals will open in Chicago against the Cubs, and the Mets, of course, opening day against the Pittsburgh Pirates at Shea on Tuesday.
And we advise you to come early for that ball game opening day. Ceremonies start at 1 o'clock, so it'll be a sellout. And if you want to catch all the excitement of opening day, the ceremonies included, be sure to come out early.
And also advise you to take public transportation, if possible.
Good move. Very close play at first. Darling has one of the best moves on the mound in the National League. He's got those quick feet, Tim.
Got quick feet, and also he comes set around the chest. He rarely will come set right there at the belt. You see, that's his set motion, and he has to do that every time he goes into a stretch.
Darling had that fastball in on Tommy Hearn. He was lucky to foul it off. Goes as a strike in the count, 1-2.
A lot of base runners will look at a pitcher who comes set around his waist, because in order to have the good move to first base, he's got to bring the hands back up. Well, that takes time. Darling, if you'll notice, comes set around the chest, and that's where his throwing motion is, so that allows his feet to be quick and to throw at the same time. No wasted movement. See that set motion right there? That was obviously not his real good move.
It's a little decoy move there.
There it is. Now watch where Darling comes set, right around the letters. And that's where you release the ball, so there's no added movement in his throws to first base.
And that ball fouled off, so the count stays at 0-2. Ron has not had a good spring, a 7.78 ERA. This is his 6th game. He's worked 19 2/3 innings, given up 20 hits, allowed 17 earned runs, 5 home runs. He's walked 14 and struck out 9. Last year, he won 15 and lost 6 for the Mets. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
And to give you an idea of what kind of spring it's been, how many times have you seen pitchers blow on their hands in spring training and wearing a choker?
And in April, how about that?
Right.
It has been a very bad spring as far as weather right here on the west coast of Florida. Runner going, the ball is swung on and fouled, so Smith, who had a big jump, turns back to first. Count stays at 1-2. You see the Cardinals running all the time. They are a running ball club, have no power. Their only power hitter at this point, Jack Clark. They do have a new player, Jim Lindeman, who has shown some power this spring. Cardinals with over 200 stolen bases the last 3 years in the major league.
And 58 home runs last year.
Didn't even beat Roger Maris's record. In fact, they didn't beat Babe Ruth's record either.
Didn't beat your record
yeah, they beat
by
me.
4. Well, by 4. He finished when you were 24, right? You did 54, 24.
That's right. Well, they had extra games, you know. 154 game season now, 162.
Right. You'd have caught the Cardinals if you'd have had that extra 8 games.
That's right. Count remains of 1-2 on Tommy Hearn. Hearn having a good spring, hitting .323 with 2 home runs, 10 runs batted in. He's had 20 hits. He'll be followed by Jack Clark, and he's their power hitter. Smith, a good lead at first base, good sized lead. He's about a step more than most people. Doesn't go, and the pitch a ball. Sometimes, Tim, when you take that real big lead, you don't really help yourself because you're always thinking about, can I get back to first? And you have a tendency to lean back to first.
The bigger the lead, the more you're leaning back to first. That's an old Maury Wills theory, as you see Ozzie Smith off quite a ways. Not quite as far as he was before. By moving out to the extremity, you're thinking about getting back a step closer to first base. You can be leaning towards second base. So the lead doesn't always dictate whether a runner is running or not.
A little shorter again this time. He'll be going. No, he faked it. And that's strike 3. Ball dropped by Carter. But Darling picks up the strikeout as Tommy Hearn doesn't like the call by home plate umpire Frank Pulley.
Oh, that inimitable punch-out call by Frank Pulley. He changed that call because younger umpires were emulating his
old call.
His old strikeout call. So you got to change. Even umpires change around. They don't want anybody copying them, you know. Frank from Easton, Pennsylvania, home of Larry Holmes.
Now Jack Clark, the batter. Jack hit .237 last year in just 65 ball games. He missed the rest of the season because of an injury in the fastball by Darling the ball. Clark with 9 home runs in those 65 games and 23 RBIs. This spring he has 3 home runs and 13 runs batted in, batting .250. Again, the throw to first base by Darling.
Interesting on that strikeout pitch, too. You could see the ball catch the front part of the plate. A lot of times a catcher can catch a ball 3 or 4 inches out of the strike zone, but he still can be a strike, as that one was.
Little split finger fastball right there for a ball. That's 2-0.
That's why late movement is the best movement. The later the movement, the more deceived the hitter will be because he thinks the ball, because of that late movement, is going to be out of the strike zone, but it can just nip the plate, and that's what Darling's strikeout pitch did to her. Or to him.
To him, yeah. And Smith is running with a pitch, and the ball is dropped as Carter can't get it out of the glove. So a stolen base for Ozzie Smith, his 7th this year, and his 7th in 7 attempts.
Well, Smith had such a good jump that Gary Carter knew the only way to get him was to get the ball out of the mitt quickly. Here's the jump. Again, a shorter lead. Now, that's a good jump right there.
Oh, it was a fast one anyway. How'd you like to be that fast?
Telling you.
And that's a strike call on a 3-0 pitch. Carter was on his way to first. Don't want to walk here anyway.
No, sir. And he knows that.
Chance to drive in a run. Just underway here at St. Petersburg. Runner at second base and 2 men away. Ground ball to third and handled by Johnson. Not an easy chance. And they pick up the out. So a walk and 1 left. And the score. At the end of 1/2 inning, the Cardinals nothing. The New York Mets coming up. Andy Cox on the mound for the St. Louis Cardinals. Last year with a record of 12-13, an earned run average of 2.90. Last year, he worked a total of 220 innings, gave up 189 hits, walked 60, and struck out 108. Danny Cox.
All right, Ralph, and the lineup for the Mets. Center fielder Lynn Dykstra leading off. Wally Backman, the second baseman, hitting second. Keith Hernandez at first base, batting third. Gary Carter, the catcher, hitting fourth. Darryl Strawberry, the right fielder, batting fifth. Left fielder Kevin McReynolds, newly acquired from the Padres, batting sixth. Howard Johnson, the third baseman, hitting seventh. Rafael Santana at short, batting eighth. And the pitcher, Ron Darling, batting ninth.
And the defense for the Cardinals, Clark, Herr, Smith, and Pendleton in the infield, first to third. In the outfield, Landrum, McGee, and Lindemann, left to right. The catcher is Tony Pena. And Danny Cox will be working to Len Dykstra as his first batter. Len batted .295 last year with 8 home runs, 45 runs batted in, and had a total of 31 stolen bases. And the fastball for strike one. And we'd like to apologize for the fact that we are having some audio problems. We understand we've been cutting in and out. We'll try and get that corrected as soon as possible. Good curveball in the count. Strike two. Dykstra's having a tough spring. He's hitting .190 this year with 11 hits, 58 runs batted in.
And Cox having a good spring. In 16 innings, he's given up only 1 earned run, winning a couple of games.
Goes to the breaking ball and bounces it in the dirt. Danny Cox, lifetime record of 42-39. Lifetime against the Mets, 3-6. And the fastball, and Dykstra strikes out. So So Cox picks up the first out here in the bottom half of the first inning. No score, and it brings up Wally Backman.
You see the tailing fastball. We talked about the tailing fastball Darling threw to her that just caught the front corner. Well, that was a similar fastball that Cox threw to Len Dykstra to get him.
Backman hitting .320 last year with 1 home run, 27 runs batted in. And the first pitch, strike one. Wally this spring hitting .280 with 14 hits. He's number 1 in runs scored for the Mets. He has scored 12 this spring. And the fastball fouled away. 1 ball, 1 strike. And of course you see the familiar style of Tony Pena catching in that unusual position. It always amazes me how he gets out of it. I know I couldn't. I don't know about you, Tim.
Oh, no. Yes, you do. I've told you I couldn't get out of it.
I can see how he can get down there, but I don't know how he can get up again.
Well, we've talked about this before, and certainly we'll be talking about it throughout the '87 season, but I admire what he can do by getting down that low, but I do not think it's the proper technique. He's not down there now.
And there's a line drive down the left field side, a base hit. Fielded by Tito Landrum, and he gets it back in, and Backman holds it first with a single. So the first hit of the game.
There you see Pena is not down. This is a good pitch by Cox and good piece of hitting by Wally Backman.
So a runner on with 1 man out as Backman singles. And the batter for the Mets will be Keith Hernandez. Keith hitting .310 last season with 13 home runs, 83 runs batted in. Lifetime .300 batter in the major leagues. And that's ball 1. Keith this spring hitting .314 with 16 base hits, 2 of them home runs, and he's driven in 10. Backman chased back. Wally had only 13 stolen bases last year, but he pulled a groin muscle early in the year and then was hampered throughout the year by the fact he might do it again. And a ground ball to the second base side. Herr has no play at second. Picks up the out at first, and Backman now in scoring position. That brings up Gary Carter. Carter, a .255 batter last year with 24 home runs, and he tied a club record with 105 runs batted in, a club record set by our fellow announcer, Rusty Staub.
Ralph, we talked about the technique of Tony Pena getting down. The reason, in my opinion, that it's not the proper technique to give a target, it's all right because it covers the area of the plate, only one area of the plate that you get hitters out in, and that's the ball down. However, when you get on one knee, you can't give the target effectively inside and outside, and that's the most efficient way of getting hitters out, in my opinion.
And the breaking ball hit hard to center field, but McGee is there, and he makes the catch. So the Mets threaten but do not score. 1 hit, 1 left at second to score at the end of 1. The Cardinals nothing, the Mets nothing. Now here's a word from Burger King. Well, we're going now to the top of the second inning, no score. And the Cardinals getting set to send Jim Lindeman to the plate along with Tony Pena and Tito Landrum. Cardinals having a very good spring. They have a record of 15-6. They've played 3 ties. The Mets have a record of 11-13. Last spring, the Mets were 13-13 with 1 tie. So the Mets would have to duplicate last year's record with a victory here today and a win tomorrow against the Phillies in Washington, D.C. We'll be televising that game from Washington, D.C. So we invite you to be with us tomorrow afternoon. Jim Lindeman, and he has had some kind of a spring. Breaking ball by Ron Darling. Lindeman this spring has earned a job on the ball club by hitting .370 with 6 home runs, 19 runs batted in. 27 base hits and 73 at-bats, and he chases a split-finger fastball, strike 2. Lindemann last year with the Cardinals was in 19 ball games and batted .255, 1 home run, 6 runs batted in. And the curveball got him. So Lindemann looking at the snake and back to the bench.
This really freezes Lindemann. As you see, the breaking ball by Darling. And the left leg buckle.
Oh, old jelly leg there.
Jelly legs. Old jelly legs.
Now the batter will be the newcomer, Tony Pena. And it was Lindemann's great spring that set up the trade for Pena, as the Cardinals were able to let Andy Van Slyke go over to the Pirates to pick up Tony Pena. Pena this spring hitting .255 with 1 home run, 9 RBIs. Last year with Pittsburgh, he hit .288 with 10 home runs and 52 runs batted in. Pena sort of, to me, Tim, seems like a Cardinal ball player. He's fast for a catcher, and has a good speed, and he'll be used as a stolen baseman.
Stole more bases as a Pirate in 84 and 85 than any other Pirate catcher in their history.
Oh, he
does take a healthy cut.
He doesn't get cheated up there, does he?
Tony has spread out a little bit more this year, but that swing is the same.
He beats the back.
He's always smiling. He's always smiling. What a nice man.
He's got to wear a pad to his back. I think some of the greatest shots Bill Webb has ever gotten of a hitter have been to Tony Pena after he has missed the ball in the swing.
I think it's interesting you point out that Van Slyke would have moved to right field since Clark has returned. And by Lindemann having the good spring with the 6 home runs, batting .370, that allowed Whitey Herzog to play him every day, or those are his plans, and acquire Pena because Van Slyke was highly sought after.
So the walk to Pena puts Tito Landrum at the plate. Tito hit .210 last year in 96 games, batting .290 this spring with 3 home runs and 5 RBIs. 3 of his 9 base hits have been home runs. Of course, he's noted for one very famous home run, although he's not a home run hitter to speak of.
He hit the home run off Brett Burns in the 10th inning of Game 4 to give the Baltimore Orioles the American League Championship. Eventually, they beat the Phillies in the World Series back in 1983.
And the fastball for a ball, 2 balls, 1 strike. I think Dwight Gooden remembers. No, I should say Jesse Orozco remembers him well, too. He got Orozco a couple of times with pinch hit home runs. Fastball, and it's ripped down the left field line, but foul. Tito Landrum.
It's interesting you mentioned Tito hit .210 last year. If you're a player that plays sparingly and you have a bad year, the interesting thing is you have a better chance of making the ball club the next year than a guy who plays regularly and has a bad year. If a regular player had hit .210, he would have been either traded or been on the shelf or something, but there's understanding that goes along with a player that does not play a lot.
Throw to first base, and Pena gets back.
Great story about Chris Cannizzaro. Al Jackson told me Chris talked himself into playing, didn't drive in a run for 81 straight games, and then they traded him.
Well, that exposure can really do it to you sometimes.
That's right.
There goes the runner, and the fastball inside. The throw by Carter, not in time. So Pena picks up a stolen base. That's his 4th this spring. And he'll add some more to that speed dimension of the Cardinals.
Gary Carter had a good pitch to handle, but Pena had another good jump. 1, 2, 3 steps. You see him look back, and the reason you look back if the ball's hit in the air on the infield, you want to scramble back to first base. A lot of difference in stealing with none or 1 out as opposed to 2 outs. With 2, you don't have to look back.
And another walk by Ron Darling. That's his third in this ball game. Darling has been wild this spring. 2 years ago, he led the National League in walks. Last year, he walked only 81. That's his 16th walk this spring, making it his 17th walk this spring. And he has worked a total of a shade over 20 innings. And it brings up Terry Pendleton. Pendleton last year hit .239 with 1 home run, 59 runs batted in. Goes after a high fastball, grounds it out in the hole, cut off by Hernandez. A good play there. And Santana holds onto the ball as Pena makes the turn at third and stays.
This is a situation that we saw Kevin Elster do last year. When he caught the ball, he immediately looked to third. Santana waits a little bit too long to look at third, and what can happen is you catch the runner at third base, rounding the bag, and throw behind the runner. Good way to catch a less than alert base runner napping occasionally.
So the out brings up the pitcher, Danny Cox. 2 men away, no score, runners at first and third, and Cox hits it out to right. Strawberry is there, and he puts it away. So the Cardinals threaten to do not score. Leave 2 on walks, and the score at the end of 1.5 innings. The Cardinals nothing, the Mets nothing. Now here's a word from Mitsubishi Motors. Well, a St. Louis Cardinal fan right there wearing a hard hat, and here's a man who played many, many years successfully for the St. Louis Cardinals, Tim McCarver.
And I wore a hard hat defensively and offensively. They used to criticize me wearing a hard hat defensively because I played first base at times. Here's Darryl Strawberry. Darryl batting .246, a couple of home runs this spring. No score, bottom of the second.
You know, Tim, in 1952, they came out with these hard hats for the first time. The Pittsburgh Pirates were wearing them. Rance Rickey was the general manager, and it was mandatory. You had to wear the hats both offensively and defensively. And it was a safety factor on defense for the Pirates that year. We lost 112 games.
But the Cardinals won't lose their helmets. Ground ball right side. Jack Clark, the first baseman, over to Cox. 1 away here in the second, and the batter will be Kevin McReynolds. The Mets will enter the season quite an unusual situation as far as their roster is concerned. They have 3 players on the disabled list. Dwight Gooden is on the disabled list, of course, along with Roger McDowell and Dave Magadan. McReynolds is up to his average .263, and he takes a strike. The interesting thing about the disabled list, the 3 players, that none of the injuries are baseball related. Not a one. 1-1 to McReynolds. Roger McDowell with the hernia. He'll be back in about 5 weeks. Dave Magadan with the lymph gland under his right arm. It was operated on, found to be benign, and of course the shocking news this week of Dwight Gooden entering the Drug Rehabilitation Smithers Institute in New York City. 1-2 to McReynolds. No. Still 1-2. The Mets are planning. Now, this could change, we understand, but the Mets are planning to fill those spots on the roster, carrying 24 men north, with Al Pedrique in place of Magadan, Clint Hurdle as the third catcher, and Terry Leach was brought up to shore up the pitching staff. Now, that could change with a trade over the next couple of days, but if no trades are made, those 3 will fill the roster. 2-2 to McReynolds.
That will fill the roster to 24, and the roster could go to 25.
3-2 to Kevin.
Kind of a complex situation. The clubs last year all staying with 24 men, although the contract, the player's contract, says you can have 24 or 25 men. Can't be less.
Fly ball center field, and Willie McGee limping over to make the catch. Willie said he was about 90% when I asked him before the game. Ball players kind of coin those things, 85%, 72.5% or whatever.
Goes with the weather down here. The weather reports are 40% chance of rain where you are. How do they know where we are? When we're not broadcasting, that is.
Howard Johnson batting .246. He was red hot a couple of weeks ago. Has been in a mini swoon here recently. He will be the starting third baseman on Tuesday when the Mets play the Pittsburgh Pirates. 1-0 to Howard. Curveball low, 2-0. No score, bottom of the second. The next time the Mets play here in St. Petersburg, they will be wearing their road uniforms as they move to Port St. Lucie over on the East Coast for spring training of 1988. Change-up, check swing. You need to check a swing with the count 2-0 or 3-1.
That's when you should be taking your number one swing at the ball. You guess one way and let it go.
If you don't get that pitch, let it go by. Even if it's a strike, it's a lot different than protecting the plate with 2 strikes, because anything close, obviously, you have to protect the plate, but not so 2-0 or when you're ahead of the pitcher. Another changeup, grounded right side, and there's her. Well, it's been an easy spring for Danny Cox, and he had an easy inning against the Mets. No score after 2, and we'll be back after this word from R.C. Cola. Well, this is baseball, but you are seeing a spread formation there. That's quite a spread, isn't it, Ralph?
Well, that is a spread, and that's for the San Lucie people who are over here attending this ball game. That's where the Mets will train next year. And I can understand why the Mets are moving if that's the way they eat over there.
That's right.
Lobster and champagne at the ballpark.
The only way to travel. Willie McGee will lead it off for the Cardinals here in the 3rd inning. No score. Ron Darling on the mound. He has walked 3, struck out 2, and given up no hits. Only 1 hit in the ball game. Had a first-inning single by Wally Backman. McGee flied to left his first time up, and the curveball is high.
This is his first game start this spring.
Arthroscopic surgery on his knee in December. One wonders really why he waited that long to have the arthroscopic surgery. This one tapped foul. McGee missed 39 games last year. He had 3 occurrences of hamstring pulls. And then the bad knee. So Willie trying to get his wheels righted. Certainly had them right 2 years ago, didn't he?
Most valuable player in the National League last year and led the league in hitting. That's 2 years ago.
Line drive to left. He hit it well. But McReynolds is there, 1 away. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the New York Mets and WOR-TV and is intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience and any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the New York Mets and WOR-TV is prohibited. And Ozzie Smith fouls one back. Ozzie walked and stole a base in the first. Ralph, I mentioned the adjective shocked over the Gooden situation. And it's interesting, I guess, the adjectives that have been used this week. Disappointed, of course. Some have used angry. Some have used compassionate, consoling. Shocked is probably the most heard adjective. Terrible, terrible situation. I think compassionate probably fits the bill more than any other thing that you can say about Dwight Gooden. Remarkable talent.
His record.
Institute. Smithers Institute.
You look at his overall record, 58 wins and only 19 losses in his major league career. And you often wonder, at least I do, and I imagine everyone else does, why would you ever jeopardize a career by making such a horrible mistake?
And it was a mistake, obviously. A very, very serious mistake. 2-2 to Smith. Lined over the head of Backman. Smith's going to stop at first base as Strawberry retrieves the ball in a hurry. That's the first hit for the Cardinals. Pretty good pitch by Darling, it appeared.
Came off a good breaking ball. As we look at it again, this ball breaking down, and Smith tommyhawks it right over the head of the second baseman, Wally Backman. Good piece of hitting. Smith last year had his best year ever, average-wise, hitting .280.
Tommy Herr struck out his first time up on a called fastball strike on the outside part. The fastball is low to Herr, 1-0.
Well, getting back to Gooden one more time, the fact, I think it was best said by Keith Hernandez, that it's more important to get his life straightened out than it is to get his baseball career straightened out.
I know it's trite to say, and it's rather a cliche, but wins and losses really don't count compared to the lives of the people who play the game and are responsible for the wins and losses. And I think that more than any other position is the position of the New York Mets. 1-0 to Herr. There goes Smith. The pitch is high, and Smith has another stolen base.
Well, Ozzie getting his second stolen base in this ball game, and his 8th of the spring. He is now 8 for 8 in stolen bases. He got 4 steps before the ball was released by Darling, and that gave him a chance to beat the throw. The throw was a good throw.
And all of the stolen bases the Cardinals have had, 2 by Smith and 1 by Pena, Carter's had no chance. It's 2-0 to Tommy Herr. 1 out, Smith at second, no score, top of the third. Fouls it back, 2-1. Notice Tony Pena's first game with the Cardinals the other day. The reporter who wrote the story for there's Tommy Herr's son, as a matter of fact. The reporter who wrote the story said that Pena allowed 2 stolen bases. Now, I guess,
you don't like that, do you?
No, I don't like that. Because, and I'll tell you, the public actually thinks that most of the stolen bases are on the catcher, and that is simply not true. Fastball in tight, 3-1.
Well, you're stealing the pitcher. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, sure.
Most of the time.
Obviously, sometimes it's the catcher's errant throw that's responsible. But a pitcher's got to hold them close. And even at that, if you run fast enough, you're going to get the stolen base anyway. As Herr lifts one to Strawberry, Smith tagging at second, he'll move to third. So the Cardinals have a runner at third, 2 outs, and the batter, Jack Clark. Jack grounded to third, a sharply hit ground ball his first time up, with Smith in scoring position.
Of course, Jack Clark always will be remembered by Tommy Lasorda as a man who spoiled his strategy and gave Lasorda the worst winter he ever had. First base was open, and Clark hit a 3-run home run to win the game for the Cardinals over the Dodgers in the playoffs 2 years ago.
Hit it off the Buffalo. Tom Niedenfuhrer of the Dodgers with Andy Van Slyke on deck. And Van Slyke was having a bad year at the time.
Clark was having a good one, as he does. And Lasorda did not walk him intensely to get to Van Slyke. And the second guessers were in strong order.
Good split finger fastball by Darling. So Clark's in the hole, 0-2. So a good curveball by Darling, and he has featured that good curveball all afternoon. No runs, a hit, one left for the Cardinals. No score after 2.5. We go to the middle of the third after this word from your Lincoln Mercury dealers.
On April 7th, the battle for the pennant begins at Shea Stadium, and we're ready. We've got the big guns. We've got the heavy artillery. We've got the rockets. And we've got the best manpower support in the game. You helped us get this. Now come out and help us keep it. Let's do it again. 1986 champs. Baseball like it ought to be.
Well, fans, if you want to see the 1987 Mets at Shea this season, take some good advice and buy your tickets in advance. This season promises to be the best ever, so make your plans now in order to get the best seats available. Tickets for all Mets home games are now on sale at all Ticketron outlets, Shea Stadium's advanced ticket window, by mail, or call 718-507-TIXX for more information. Let's do it again at Shea this season and catch all the action and excitement of your world champion Mets. It's baseball like it ought to be. Don't forget to get your tickets now.
And Rafael Santana is hitting the ball like he ought to be. He's having a good spring.
Batting .310 this spring with 13 base hits. Last year he hit .218 for the year.
Santana hoping that he can hit the ball like he did 2 years ago with the Mets when he batted .257. Fastball for a strike from Danny Cox. No score, bottom of the third inning. It's a little backup slider for a strike. 0-2. The Mets leave at 7:15 from their minor league, or actually the clubhouse tomorrow. Huggins Stengel Field, a fastball outside. Go to the airport, catch a charter flight to Washington, D.C., and play the Philadelphia Phillies tomorrow, weather permitting. We will be on the air at 1 o'clock, 1:30, check that, tomorrow afternoon. And we understand that JFK Stadium is sold out in Washington. Last time I was there was for the Cracker Jack Old Timers game several years ago with you, Ralph.
And Luke Appling hit a home run into the short and left field seats at the age of 75.
Wow. Still 1-2 to Ralphie.
If that ballpark's in the same configuration as it was then, and I think it is, you're going to see a lot of home runs.
Fastball low, 2-2.
Very short left field fence, about 250, and a very low fence.
And the reason for that, obviously, is that JFK is the home of the Washington Redskins. Slider is low, 3-2. Reminds me of back in 1960 when I was playing for the Memphis Chicks. We played a 3-game series in Nashville. Came home and they said the park's on fire, our home park. And sure enough, it had burned to the ground. We left town on a 3-week road trip, came back and played in a football stadium. Santana down on strike, second strikeout for Cox, and the batter will be Ron Darling.
Cox with a good curveball, and he uses it well here in a good spot out of the strike zone, but it starts in the strike zone, and that's his second strikeout. Cox struck out 108 last year in a 220-inning season.
So Darling the batter, no score, bottom of the third. The first night we played in that ballpark, there were 11 home runs hit, 220 feet down the right field line. You'd have loved to hit in that park.
Boy.
354 to straightaway center. High hop for Ozzie. 2 outs, and the batter Len Dykstra. So after that first night, they made it a ground rule double from the right field line to straightaway center field, and there were some of the longest doubles I've ever seen hit. Remember the name Roy Hawes?
Yeah.
Played in the Southern Association for 12 years. Double-A ball, 12 years. Broke holds every Southern Association record.
Of course, those old ballparks in the Southern Association were legendary for their stories that were tied into the parks and also for the dimensions of the ballpark. You mentioned that one in Nashville.
Sulphur Dell.
Right field was about
265.
and you had the right fielder stood on an embankment that went up about 20 feet, and he had a little ledge there that he stood on, and you ran down if it was in front of you, and you tried to climb up if the ball was hitting back of you. That's where Rube Walker hit into an unusual double play.
Rube Walker hit into well, actually, it was in Memphis.
Was it Memphis?
Yeah, it was Memphis. He hit into a 9-6-3 double play.
Right field, shortstop, first base.
1-1 to Dykstra. He struck out his first time up, and he takes another strike, so it's 1-2. That's also the park in Nashville where Bob Lennon hit 64 home runs one year, about 45 at home.
Good left-hand batter, and he came up with the Giants when they were playing in New York.
Fastball high, 2-2 to Dykstra.
A lot of people think the home run record is 61 held by Roger Maris, but it's something like 72 or 73. A fellow named Bowman in the West Texas, New Mexico League that hit that many home runs in the season.
Changeup ripped foul. Dick Stewart with 66 home runs, I believe, in Pocatello. Signed his name the next year, Dick 66 Stewart.
And still does.
He's talking about his errors now, however.
His license plate had E3 on it.
Wally Backman, the on-deck batter. Fly ball lifted to center by Dykstra. That's 7 in a row. Make that 8 in a row. Retired by Danny Cox. Rusty Staub joins Ralph after this word from Budweiser.
Well, we're going now to the top of the fourth inning, scoreless ball game, and the leadoff batter for St. Louis will be Jim Lindeman. And we'd like to welcome Rusty Staub, who is joining us now for the color, and welcome to our chilly booth.
Well, thank you, Ralph. It's good to be here. It's a beautiful day, though. It is a little chilly.
Well, we're in the shade. The sunshine to be all right. Lindeman having a great spring, making the ball club, and he fouls off the first pitch. He was struck out looking at a curveball his first time up. He came into this game hitting .370 with 6 home runs, 19 runs batted in. Good, strong-looking hitter, isn't he, Rusty?
He certainly is, Ralph. I think as Ronnie throws a ball there, I think if Lindeman hadn't had the kind of spring that he had, I don't know if the Cardinals could have made the trade giving up Van Slyke, but he certainly showed that he should be in the lineup.
Split finger fastball, the old splitter, and Lindeman chases it out of the strike zone. Tough pitch to hit, especially if it is in the dirt like that.
Probably hasn't seen too many of those pitches.
He'll see a lot of them now.
You can bet on it.
I mean, now you're in the big leagues. This is different up here. Back with a fastball, and got lucky there. He didn't call him out on strikes with that pitch. It was close. And the curveball. You know, Rusty, that's his 4th strikeout, and he's had a good curve today. I wonder if Ron got away from throwing the curveball. He was going to split finger and fastball. This spring, he's using the curveball a lot.
Well, I think it's a very effective pitch for him. I think one of the things that happened was when he started to throw that split-fingered fastball, I think it caused Ron to drop down on the side a little more often, which made his curveball a little flatter. I think he ran into trouble throwing it, and I guess he's worked on it this spring to the point where he can throw both pitches with some effectiveness.
He's had a good one this spring, and that is Tony Pena at the plate, and he takes for ball 1. Pena walked his first time up.
Darling used to throw that slow curveball from time to time, which got him into trouble.
Back with a good fastball. You know, you could talk about all the pitches, the split finger, the knuckleball, any pitch in the world. The toughest pitch to hit in baseball is a good curveball. Well, not many pitchers can throw good curveballs.
A good curveball in a good position, you're in trouble. That's why they used to say, Mom, get the bed ready. They're curving me. I'm coming home.
I'm coming home. Boy, that curveball put a lot of people back in another business.
Made a lot of salesmen out of people, didn't it?
A fellow named Candy Cummings invented the curveball back in something like 1880. That's before just a shade before Rusty's time.
Did you know him, Ralph?
I used to see pictures of him. Pena again with that big swing. He gets He gets his swings up there. He's from that old school, swing hard in case you hit it.
That's it. Darling in the second inning struggled a little bit with his rhythm, and I really think he had a lot of different arm positions upon delivery. But he certainly has got his rhythm over this last couple of innings.
There's a curveball that's hit hard in the left field, and Pena comes up with a base hit. So Tony on base twice now, walking a single, and that is the second hit of the game for the Cardinals.
That is a high curveball right out over the plate, and Pena stayed back well on this. His weight was a little forward, but he kept his hands back and drove that ball real hard to left field.
And Pena a threat to steal, even though he's a catcher. And it brings up Tito Landrum. Pena with a stolen base back in the second. The Cardinals have had 3 stolen bases in this game. And Landrum takes the fastball.
Tony Pena coming into this Cardinal organization, they certainly have done probably as much running as any team in baseball over the last few years, and I'm sure he will get into the middle of it with the rest of the Cardinal teammates.
And the fastball again popped up on the second base side. Backman in the infield makes the play, 2 men away. So a runner at first with 2 men out, and the batter will be Terry Pendleton. Pendleton grounded out his first time up. Good play in the ball by Keith Hernandez, cutting it off as it was hit in the hole between the first baseman and second baseman.
He just makes it look easy, doesn't he, Ralph?
It's the best I've ever seen.
You know, a lot of people over the years have different favorites, but no one can be considered a better first baseman than Keith Hernandez. On a par with, yes, but not better.
They can't get any better. Keith Hernandez, lifetime 300 batter and a Gold Glove winner, many, many years. This ball hit right at the shortstop, Santana, and that'll do it. A base hit by Pena, a man left at first. The score at the end of 3.5 innings, the Mets nothing, the Cardinals nothing. Now here's a word from Sunoco. Well, it's apropos that with Rusty Staub in the broadcast booth that we have a lobster out there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been to a lot of spring training games. These people are having a good time. I mean, they had champagne, wine, and about a 4-course meal.
I like the way it was served with white gloves.
There you go. There's a look.
And, of course, Mets fans. Well, we're going now to the bottom of the 4th inning, scoreless ball game. And for the Mets, it'll be Wally Backman to lead off. Wally with the only base hit off of Danny Cox. Wally singled the left field in the first inning off a tough pitch. Got as far as second base, the only base runner for the Mets. Cox with a record of 12-13 last year. And he starts off with a fastball. Backman, a .320 hitter last season, his best year ever in the major leagues with 1 home run, 27 RBIs. This ball hit in the air to center field. Willie McGee holding and then misjudging the ball. It's over his head. And Backman goes in with a double. So Willie McGee misjudging the fly ball in center field, and Backman comes up with his second hit.
Well, Ralph, the wind is blowing in hard from right across the left. And on this particular ball, it's just a dead misjudgment. Willie McGee looked at the ball, and as soon as he looked at it and didn't move on it, it was all over. Now, in Willie McGee's defense, he has not been out there very much so far this spring. This is, I think, the first start he's had all spring. And other than that, he's only been in a couple of innings. So he's, if you'll pardon the pun, a little rusty out there in center field.
And it brings up Keith Hernandez. Keith robbed of a base hit by Tommy Herr his first time up, and that's ball 1. Keith, a good spring, hitting .314 coming into this ball game with 16 hits, 2 home runs, 10 runs batted in. And he had a special program set up this winter. You worked with him on that program, didn't you?
Well, Keith worked out, I would say, real hard the last 2 months of the off season. As you see him swinging a ball down for a strike, and he used free weights, he ran, he used a bike. I think Keith finally realized that if he really wants to play for a long period of time after this contract is over, you have to work at it. I know yours truly has certainly talked to him enough about it.
And this ball hit down to the first base side. Jack Clark comes up with it, picks up the out at first base, and Backman crosses over to third. So the Mets with a runner at third base with one out as Hernandez grounds out. And the batter coming up, Gary Carter, who set a record for the Mets last year in sacrifice flies. Good spot here to give the Mets a run with a sacrifice fly. Rusty, you're one of the best at contact hitting when you were playing. In this situation, what did you think about it?
Well, number one, knowing your pitcher helps. With a Danny Cox kind of guy, I just tried to move the ball through the middle of the field. I think coming off the ball, trying to pull it is a negative. A lot of people try to, they say, get a little bit of an uppercut and lift the ball to the outfield for the sacrifice fly, but I really think driving the ball is the thing you should do at all times.
Did you think about the fact that you wouldn't swing at anything that was down low because that's a ground ball pitch?
I would make sure that until I got 2 strikes, I got a pitch I wanted to handle.
This one's handled all right. Deep to center field. McGee goes back, and this one makes the catch. Backman comes in to score after tagging up, and the Mets lead 1-0.
That's exactly what Gary Carter did on that pitch. He got a really good pitch to swing at and drove it right back through the middle. They always say with 2 strikes, in certain situations, when you're driving the ball back through the middle, you can cover the entire plate. No matter what pitch is thrown, you can handle most pitches.
And Darryl Strawberry gets his first pitch and fouls it off. Darryl grounded out his first time up off a curveball.
You know, you can find an exception to that from time to time. Louis Tiant used to always try to jam you in that situation, but you have to learn that through experience.
That was a tight pitch. You swing at that when you get jammed. You get jammed all the way to your toenails.
Well, Louis Tiant did that to me one time. First time I ever faced him in that situation.
And a ground ball up the middle and on through into center field. And Strawberry has a base hit.
Yeah, Louis Tiant threw that pitch to me, Ralph, and I was ringing forever. Here you see Darryl Strawberry hit a hard ground ball. Tommy Hurd did not look like he got a real good jump on that ball, although he was playing Strawberry to pull a little bit.
So Darryl is on with his first hit. That's his 15th this spring. He's had 2 home runs and 8 runs batted in. Came in hitting .246, and the batter will be Kevin McReynolds. Reynolds flied out to center field his first time up, and he rips this ball down to third. Pendleton handles a difficult shot and picks up the force play at second. Good play by Terry Pendleton, an outstanding fielding third baseman. Mets get the first run of the ball game. They had 2 hits, they left 1, and the score at the end of 4. The Mets won, the Cardinals nothing. Now here's a word from Nissan. Danny Cox, the leadoff for St. Louis. The Mets now leading by a score of 1-0. Fine pitchers duel between Danny Cox, who is now batting, and Ron Darling, who is now pitching. And the fastball for ball 1. Cox flied out to right field his first time up.
Ralph, do you think Danny Cox did a lot of fishing during his spring training?
Ground ball up the middle and cut off by Santana. I don't know how anybody can fish with all that wind blowing out there.
Well, last year it was after he went fishing that he jumped off a seawall when he hurt himself right toward the end of spring training. Had to be put on a disabled list and wound up, when he did get back, losing his first 4 starts. He was 0-4. First half of the season, he pitched pretty poorly. Had a great second half. He was 9-6 in the second half, 3-7 in the first half.
And another fellow who had a bad year last year, Willie McGee, and he hits this ball on through Keith Hernandez, the first baseman. So Willie comes up as a runner at first base after flying out the left field his first 2 times up.
Hernandez almost made a really good play on that ball. Just got by him. That's a rough infield out there. Making good plays on it. is tough enough.
So a runner on first base is scored as a base hit. I think they scored. Did they score? Well, the scoreboard here changed.
Yeah, they gave him a hit on that ball on the scoreboard.
They had an error up there originally, and then back. Now goes McGee, and he steals second base easily. And Willie McGee, who was limping throughout the early part of this ball game, decoys the Mets into a stolen base.
Well, he gets a very good jump here. Does not look like he's hurting any. Shows reckless abandon, diving on both those knees.
You got to watch those guys that give you that decoy. He looked like he was ready for a stretcher.
They always used to tell me I always looked like I was decoying, Ralph.
And the next batter is Ozzie Smith, and he fouls off the first pitch. Ozzie with a base hit and a walk in his 2 appearances. That was one thing about being a slow runner. You never slow down when you get older.
That was it.
Ron Darling working with a 1-0 lead. Time run at second base with 1 man out. And then the count, 2 balls, 1 strike. Good fastball. Ozzie, a .280 hitter last season, his best year ever, hitting .233 coming into this game with 14 base hits. Tommy Herr on deck. Punched out to left, a base hit. This will tie up the ball game. Willie running around third, no limp at all. And he scores, and the game is tied at 1.
This is just really good hitting. That ball really moved down and away from Ozzie Smith, and he just stayed with it, slapped it right out to left field. And Kevin McReynolds makes a good play, realizing he's got no chance to get Willie McGee. Throws the ball to second base to keep the runner at first base and keep him out of score position with 1 out.
So McGee tying up the ball game with that run scored, and it brings up Tommy Herr. Tommy has struck out and lined out. 0 for 2. Smith has been on twice before and has had 2 stolen bases.
Cardinals have certainly shown that they are going to be an aggressive ball club again, Ralph.
Well, that's Whitey Herzog's type of play. With that ballpark especially.
They've got to have it.
Bush Memorial Stadium, a big, big ballpark, tough for home run hitters. So the Cardinals tailoring their ball club to the artificial turf and speed. And their big base runner, Coleman, Vince Coleman, not in this ball game.
Coleman hasn't had a bad spring. He's hit .288 this spring. Had 5 stolen bases himself so far in this spring training period.
There you see Whitey Herzog with the shades on. Hard base hit down the right field line. Might be extra bases. Ozzie Smith on his way to third, and he'll score. Tommy Herr rounding second on his way to third. And the Cardinals take the lead by a score of 2-1 as Tommy Herr triples in the run.
And that was a fastball right down the middle. And Herr jumped all over it. And this angle on the fence is going to throw Strawberry off here. That's a tough corner. And if it gets by you, it's going to sneak on down. And it gave her a chance to get to third base for a triple. And that's an outfield that you just have to work on to really be able to handle that kind of ball, because you don't know whether it's going to hit the flat surface or it's going to hit the angle. If it hits the angle, it's by you.
Now the batter, Jack Clark, and he goes after the split finger fastball, and it's strike 1. Mets playing their infield in spite of the fact that Clark is a cleanup batter and a power hitter. Looking for a play at the plate. Clark has grounded out and struck out.
All the wives are clutching their insurance policies about this time.
1 ball, 1 strike. Infield in, though. Hey, on this surface in spring training.
Oh, this is a bad infield, boy.
Tough luck.
You can't say this is a, got a couple of bad hops in it. This infield is downright dangerous.
Let's build in bad hop. Well, the Cardinals do their workouts here as well as play their games here along with the Mets. The Mets, of course, work out at Huggins-Stengel Field. This will score another run, maybe extra bases. Dykstra back to the fence and making the catch. And Tommy Herr scores without a play. So the Cardinals get 3 in the inning. They now lead 3-1 in the top of the 5th. And Clark gets an RBI.
Well, Clark does the same thing that Gary Carter did. He gets a fastball out over the plate. He goes right back through the middle with it. He's so strong. This ball really carries. I was shocked how far this ball carried. Shows you the strength that Jack Clark has.
So with Herr scoring from third, it's 3-1 St. Louis, and it brings up Jim Linderman, who has struck out twice, both times on curveballs. And the fastball for ball 1.
In the early part of spring training, a lot of pitchers are trying to get in shape. They throw a lot more fastballs. They don't really throw a lot of their breaking balls. It might have helped young Linderman. But you can bet going into this season, a lot of clubs have their scouts here and have watched him struggle against the breaking ball, not only today but other days. And he's going to have to prove he can hit that pitch.
And the off-speed pitch. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, coming up to the minor leagues, you have to be a fastball hitter to get to the majors. When you get to the majors, you have to learn how to handle the curve to some degree. There's a strike call off the fastball.
About every decade or so, a new pitch seems to come along. Obviously, the split-fingered pitch being the pitch of the 80s.
And there's a fastball. It's hit in the air to center field. Dykstra is there. And he makes the catch. In the inning, 3-run score on 3 hits. No one left on base. The score at the end of 4.5 innings. It's the Cardinals 3, the Mets 1. Now here's a word from Budweiser. Bottom of the 5th inning. The final tune-up for Ron Darling as you look at Ron in the dugout. Final tune-up for his next official start. Darling with a lifetime record of 44-24 in the major leagues. 20 games over 500.
Well, he looks a little bit dejected there, Ralph. I think he's had a pretty good outing. His spring training obviously was interrupted a little bit with the birth of his child and the problems that ensued.
And right here, Howard Johnson rips a high-hanging pitch down the right field line, foul.
But I do think Ron Darling feels good about going into this season. You always want to have that good last start before you go into the season. He didn't want to give up any runs there.
Yeah, he's had good stuff, though. He's looked good. I mean, the results have not been in his favor. 3-1 Cardinals at this point. We got Vince Coleman taking over in center field for Willie McGee. And Johnson looks at the breaking ball, and the count strike 2. Howard 0 for 1, grounded out his first time up. Fastball hit into deep right center field, way back. It is off the wall. So Howard on the second base and holding there with a double.
You see a fastball tailing back out over the plate. Howard Johnson jumps on it. Fastball up. That is Howard Johnson's, I would say if he has one pitch he likes to swing at, it's the fastball up and out over the plate, and he certainly showed why, because he pounded a double off the wall against the wind.
So the Mets with the time run at the plate, and the batter is Rafael Santana. And the first pitch, ball 1. Santana struck out his first time up. Danny Cox, the pitcher, got him with a curveball.
Here's a situation, Ralph, where the pitcher is obviously going to hit. There's nobody out and a man on second, and Rafael Santana's normal job is to try to move that runner to third base. But with the pitcher coming up next, I don't know. What do you feel about that? I feel like you ought to be trying to drive the run in.
Well, if you're looking at it from a standpoint of playing the game to win, you'd say drive it in. But if you're looking at it as a practice session for what might take place in the regular season, you'd say get him over to third.
Well,
Depends how you want to look at it.
I hear you. I'd like to see him try to drive the run in myself.
I think in his case, I'd rather have him swing away because you want Raphael to get some confidence at driving runs in.
I agree.
There's a ball sliced foul into the stands, and the count 2-2. Santana last year drove in but 28 runs, hitting .218. Got off to a horrible start and then finally got it going about mid-season. Hit well, much better in the second half.
Yeah, in August and September, he swung the bat quite well. But he struggled the whole first half, that's for sure.
And he lines it into right field. Well-hit ball. Diving forward is Lindemann. And he makes the play. Jim Lindemann out in right field coming up with a spectacular play on a line shot hit by Santana.
This is not only a spectacular play, he is playing Rafael Santana the right way. The wind is blowing in from right field, kind of. And he plays him very shallow, gets a good jump, and makes just a superlative catch. Everything about that play was fine. His anticipation, his knowledge of where to play, and the actual catch itself.
So Lindemann picks up the out as Santana hits it sharply. And it brings up Ron Darling. Darling grounded out his first time up, and that's strike one.
I said this earlier on one of our broadcasts, but it never bothered me in spring training hit a line drive at somebody for an out. I hated to get those cheap hits. I hated to have a quail fall in.
Now, you're looking for the percentage.
You got that right.
You don't want to waste any of those cheapies in spring training when they don't count.
Boy, I wouldn't mind hitting 4 of them right at them because you just feel like somewhere along the line somebody's going to make a little bit of it. You never, ever get even. I don't care how they say they always even out. That never happens.
Never happens is right.
But you kind of feel like you have an edge, and you're always looking for an edge when you're in baseball.
The psychology of a ball player. You got so many hits, and you're going to get them sometime, but you want to get them at the right time. 1-2, the count to Ron Darling. In the dirt, good block of the ball by Pena. So Howard Johnson has to hold at second base. Pena, a fine defensive catcher. Just picked up by the Cardinals last week. Should really help their ball club.
Here's Cox's pitch down in the dirt. Tony Pena is going to replace LaValliere, who was actually, the Cardinals felt real good about LaValliere's calling of a game. But Tony Pena being an all-star catcher, as you see him jumping on that ball as Ron Darling strikes out, he certainly has to be a tremendous addition to their ball club, Ralph. I think he's definitely going to help them. And there you see that pitch down in the dirt. Kind of a half swing. The umpire gives a good quick call. Good call by umpire Frank Pulley. Let Darling know right away in case Darling wanted to take a bolt down first base line, draw a throw.
But you know something? Pena never tagged him. And they never threw to first base. Darling could have gone on to first base.
Yes, he could have.
This one down in the corner, deep down in the corner, and Dykstra comes up with a drive that'll go for 2. Johnson, who had doubled, comes in to score, and Dykstra with a double, and the Mets are within 1.
This ball is very definitely helped by the wind. The wind is blowing in and across from right field toward left field. This ball's way up in the air, and it just blows completely away from the right fielder. I mean, the left fielder, Tito Landrum. Howard Johnson coming in easily to score.
And Dykstra on at second base. He represents the tying run, and the batter will be Wally Beckman, who has a single and a double in 2 times up. And again, the ball dug out of the dirt by Pena. Wally now has 16 hits this spring and 52 at-bats.
And certainly seems ready for this season to open up, Ralph.
Ground ball down to the second baseman, Tommy Herr. And that will do it as the Mets score 1 run on 2 hits. They leave 1 at second, and the score at the end of 5. The Cardinals 3, the New York Mets 2. Now here's a word from Manufacturers Hanover.
Here, take a look at Tony Pena right now. Darling at the plate on that play we were discussing, and here's Tony Pena. Quickly picks it up and tags him on the fanny. So he did tag him. And welcome back to the booth, Steve Zabriskie.
Thanks a lot, Russ. And Pena leads it off here in the 6th inning. 3-2, St. Louis leading. Pena with a walk and a base hit so far this afternoon to go along with a stolen base. And that stellar inning behind the plate as well. He really does give them another dimension. Not that LaValliere is not a quality catcher, and you were alluding to the fact that how much they like the way he called the ball game. But Tony does something such as he did right there that LaValliere had a problem doing consistently. And you add the extra dimension of the added speed, and he fits right in with the Cardinals, and he leads off a 6 with his 2nd hit.
What you just saw Tony Pena do is something he started to do more and more last year, and that is not try to pull the ball all the time. He gets in a 2-ball, no strike, 3-ball, 1-strike situation, and he takes that big overdue swing. And I think that's something that is really wrong, and I hope all people are involved in working with young kids point things out like that. You very rarely see him ever hit it then.
And Pena was running on the first pitch to Tito Landrum. Landrum fouls it off, so Pena back to first. The Cardinals have stolen 4 bases so far this afternoon.
When you're in that situation, 2-0, 3-1, and you're hoping to get a pitch to handle, that's the one you want to hit. Overswinging never does get that pitch on the fat part of the bat. And Pena, with the success he's had moving the ball the other way, you think he would stop doing that, but he has not. It really gives you, it cuts down on a chance of you to really drive the ball.
Sure, you're in essence giving the pitcher a strike. Landrum 0 for 1 rather, plus a walk. Pena not going this time, and the pitch inside for a ball, 1-1. Darling has struck out 4 and walked 3. He's allowed 3 runs on 6 hits through the first 5. High and tight, and it's 2-1.
That will certainly stop you from leaning out over the old dish.
Now's the time to come back with the breaking ball away. Landrum has been working out at first and third this spring, and when he does so, he wears a mouthpiece.
On this infield, I would wear shin guards, a chest protector, and a face mask.
He'd probably like to, as Pena's chased back to first. But Tito primarily an outfielder. But another facet of Whitey Herzog's approach to the game is that you have guys that can play different positions, and Tito has filled in the infield. Grounded foul outside of third, and the count 2-2.
Well, Steve, with the 24-man roster, it's such a great asset for a player to be able to play so many positions. It's exemplified, I would say, no more than by Clint Hurdle, who can probably run out there in every position other than second base and shortstop.
Randy Myers warming up in the New York bullpen. Well, one reason, and only one reason, Kevin Mitchell made such an impact on the Mets last year was his ability to play a number of different positions. Fouled off, and the count remains 2-2. Of course, that's how he got his nickname, speaking of Mitchell, World. And he is now, of course, with San Diego, and probably will be their everyday third baseman.
He's had some physical problems this spring. I don't know how well he's faring here toward the end of spring training, but he certainly had some problems with his back, I believe.
Well hit to left, but McReynolds is right there and hauls in the line drive as Pena goes back to first, 1 away. So here's Terry Pendleton, who's 0 for 2. He grounded into a fielder's choice and lined to short.
We're at that time in the game right now, Steve, where I think a lot of the starting pitchers, especially someone like Darling, who has not had a complete spring, as we talked earlier, and getting to that number of pitches where you have to start pushing yourself.
This is Ronnie's last start, obviously, before the regular season, and he is scheduled to start Thursdays opening day 2 at Shea against Doug Drabek and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ball 1 outside.
And Rodney Dangerfield will be there again.
Yes,
Rodney. I love him.
Getting no respect as usual, but entertaining as usual. Pena at first with 1 out. Top of the 6th inning, 3-2 St. Louis leading. Pena running, and he's out. A quick tag by Wally Backman and a good throw by Carter, even though Pena had a good jump and had stolen a base earlier. Even that can't erase the perpetual smile from the face of Tony Pena.
Tony Pena likes this, being given the right to run like this. I think he loves the game so much. He's going in head first all the way, and he's out.
First time in 5 attempts today that the Mets have been able to retire a Cardinal attempting to steal second.
His hands kind of hit the ground there and seemed like they stuck a little bit. He didn't get his arms fully extended, or he might have had an opportunity to touch the bag first. I don't think he's too used to diving like that. Looks like not only did he not get his hand there, but by the time he did get there, he took the bag out and everything. Something must have snapped.
Those bags are held, as we look at the play one more time, by a center post. And sometimes if there's a lot of torque or tension...
Well, I'll tell you what, it looked like that hand snuck in there right there, Steve.
Cloud of dust may have obscured the view of second base umpire Steve Cruz, who made the call.
Well, he certainly went in hard.
He did, and sometimes when you hit the corner of that bag real hard, you can snap that post, or at least the attachment to it on the bag that holds it firmly to the ground. And of course, that's something you want to take care of right away, because a player rounding the bag could injure an ankle rather severely.
Yeah, he's in there. He was safe on that play.
And he did plow right into that bag and knock it loose.
Yes, it is. It's sticking right up in the air.
But the ground crew has taken care of it, apparently.
I imagine that's why he had such a big grin on his face, Steve. He just could have taken that base home with him.
He probably said, how can I hit it so hard and be out? Pendleton, meanwhile, a count of 2 balls, no strikes, and now 2 out with nobody on. A shot to first, backhanded casually by Hernandez, and the inning is over. So a hit, a caught stealing, and nobody left here in the 6th for St. Louis. After 5.5 innings here at Al Lang, still 3-2 Cardinals, and we're back after this for American Express. Here in the bottom of the 6th inning, Keith Hernandez will lead it off for the Mets. Gary Carter and Darryl Strawberry to follow against Danny Cox, who has pitched well, giving up 2 runs on 5 hits. Hernandez 0 for 2 and has grounded to second and grounded to first. But Keith has had a good spring, and you and Ralph were talking earlier about Keith's off-season workout program, which was a little more intense than it had been in years past. And he also dropped a few pounds, which he said was his concession to age. And when you're in your early and looking at mid-30s, that's when the body does start to change a little bit, as you and I can attest.
I'm just sitting over here laughing. I can tell you one thing. I'll tell you, I said this earlier in spring, too. I've never seen a ball club come off a national championship of any kind, much less a World Series, and come in the shape that the Mets did this year.
Yeah, everybody was looking good and working hard and resolved that there would be no complacency. And I think, if anything, Rusty, when you talk about the problems, and we have detailed those throughout the telecast, that the Mets face as a team now, with particularly the loss of Dwight and his big mistake and current problem. But not only that, Magadan expected to be a factor, and now the #1 right-hander out of the bullpen, McDowell, on the shelf for a while. I was there Wednesday when it was all announced, and Frank Cashin had spoken to the ball club, and when the guys came out of the clubhouse, they were all in shock. But then after that, you saw a great deal of resolve collectively on the part of the ball club, and Davey Johnson exemplifying that, because that's Davey's attitude, to just go ahead and get the job done. You know, the only situation they can deal with is the one they have, and so just strap it up 1 notch tighter and go after it.
Well, a lot of credit has to go, too, to the Mets really strengthening themselves and getting a lot of depth after winning, not sitting still.
Lifted deep to center. Vince Coleman back there. And one out here in the bottom of the 6th.
Had the Mets sat still, this could have been more of a problem as far as the on the field is concerned. But obviously picking up young Dave Cone as a pitcher has got to help.
And for Mets fans who have not seen Dave Cone, as Gary Carter, 0 for 1 plus a sacrifice fly and an RBI, stands in. He has been impressive. He has got some fine movement on some good, hard pitches, and we'll probably be seeing a lot of him in the early part of the season. Ball 1 to Carter.
Also, I think Gene Walter has not only earned his spot on the team, but really impressed people this spring by the way he's pitched. It's another one of the acquisitions, along with McReynolds, that the Mets made this winter.
1-1 to Carter. Well, Frank Cashin's attitude has always been, even before the Mets were a contending team and certainly a championship team, if there's any way that he can improve his ball club, he's going to do it. And that held over in spite of the fact that the Mets did win it all last season. 2-1 now.
I certainly think in 1973, when the New York Mets lost the 7th game of the World Series to Oakland, that the following year, standing pat was probably one of the biggest mistakes the New York Met organization had made at that time.
2-2 now. Well, you were in a good position to know because you were there.
I certainly was.
Well, it's been the downfall of a number of teams, and you know, the other side of the coin, other than Frank Cashin's feeling of do what you can to improve, as Carter grounds it to Ozzie Smith is short. 2 out. Is the cliche of if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. And you know, people would say, well, gee, we did well, and consequently we shouldn't have to make any changes. The Cardinals, to a certain extent, did that after they won it 2 years ago, because they did not make a lot of changes. And maybe the psychological effects of the devastating loss to Kansas City in the final 2 games of the World Series had some effect, but losing with the same people, they were a different ball club.
Losing that 40 saves in the bullpen certainly didn't help him any either.
That's true. Strawberry grounds 1 to first. Jack Tark will go to Danny Cox. And an easy 1-2-3 inning for Cox here in the 6th. So after 6 completed, Al Lang in St. Petersburg, still St. Louis up by 1, 3-2 over the Mets. Now here's a word from Michelob.
Catch the latest sports and all the news tonight at 8.
Defensive changes for the Mets as we open the 7th inning. Lee Mazzilli comes into the game at first base in replace of Keith Hernandez, and in right field, Mookie Wilson out there replacing Darryl Strawberry. And on the mound, Randy Myers in relief of Ron Darling.
Randy Myers has a victory and no losses this spring so far, and a 2.87 earned run average. He's appeared in 8 games, completed a couple, pitched 15 2/3 innings, given up 16 hits. He has had 11 strikeouts and has, I think, impressed people with his aggressiveness. And here we have Jose Oquendo.
Former Met, pinch hitting for Danny Cox. And he takes a strike. Jose did an outstanding job pinch hitting for St. Louis during the regular season last year. This spring, he's hitting .314, no homers and 2 RBIs. And the count 1-1. And Ricky Horton, or Ken Daly it is, the left-hander, warming up in the St. Louis bullpen. Fastball right at the knees on the corner for strike 2, 1-2. Down low, 2-2. Vince Coleman on deck as he went in defensively for Willie McGee last inning in center field. And a full count now to Oquendo. Sharply hit by Hernandez. Backman makes the play in time to Myers to get Oquendo. Fine play by both Backman and Myers on a ball that very easily could have been a base hit.
This is a great play. First baseman Mazzilli dives for it, just misses it. Backman backs him up, makes a fine play, makes a good turn, and Randy Myers did not quit. That's very important. Backman makes a good, strong throw, and Myers is there. They go over those different plays in spring training till they're blue in the face. And when you see a play like that executed well, a lot of time and effort has gone into the fundamentals of making it work.
And it worked that time, boy, because neither player gave up. Coleman batting for the first time, hitting .288, no homers, 6 RBIs, and 5 stolen bases. Willie McGee's first start of the spring today, as he was 1 for 3. And it's 1-1. Fouled off. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Vincent Van Gogh. Vincent can go. And he should be a fixture at the top of the lineup for Whitey Herzog. Fouls it off to stay alive. Still 1-2. Coleman's biggest problem was that he could not steal first base. He just didn't get on enough. His on-base percentage was too low for a leadoff hitter. And think of the number of bases he might have stolen had he had an on-base percentage of near 40.
You also got to look at one of the Met pitchers down on the bullpen. It looked a little bit like Aguilera. I couldn't tell for sure who it was. It looked like he was ready to take a little sun or something out there, basking down the left field line.
He's watching a couple of his buddies get their running in. It is Aggie. Bill Webb with a salient comment. You won't see this on Tuesday. May see jackets and gloves on Tuesday. Fouled out of play. And the count's still 1-2. 1 out and nobody on. Top of the 7th as St. Louis leads it 3-2. The crowd has been cheering the antics of Tom Herr's oldest son, Aaron. Tom and his wife have 2 sons, one just born last year. And Aaron, whom you may have seen on screen wearing number 28, is running around trying to catch the balls as they come down off the screen. Carter and Myers thought they had Coleman struck out with a fastball, but no, said Frank Pulley, so it's 2-2.
Coleman struck out 98 times last year, Steve, and the swing he's got, he's choking up on the bat a little bit, but he's another guy who is really taking a real hard swing and uppercuts on the ball a lot. For a guy with his great speed and playing on that AstroTurf field, if he just hits down on the ball, if he gets 2 hops on the infield, he's got a heck of a chance of being safe. I just don't understand how certain hitters' philosophies fall into place.
Well, Coleman is defeating, and there's an example of that swing, defeating his greatest asset if he puts the ball in the air.
That's a 2-strike swing right there. You got to be kidding.
And the count's still 2-2. Fouled away again.
A little more protective a swing. With 2 strikes, a young man like Coleman, with the tremendous speed he's got, he should be making sure he makes more contact, giving himself the opportunity to use that speed.
Well, that's the key. Contact. When you strike out 98 times, you're not making enough contact if you're a player like Coleman and want a bad leadoff. He makes contact this time and loops one just past the outstretched glove of Wally Backman for a base hit into right center. So Coleman aboard with 1 out, and the batter will be Ozzie Smith.
Coleman gets jammed heavily on that ball. He kind of just, there it is, he gets it out there. He just runs so easily, yet so quickly. I used to run hard. I mean, really hard and unquickly.
You looked like you were running faster than Coleman, but there was no way.
Used to say the ground used to moan as I left.
Ozzie Smith, as Coleman draws a throw, is 2 for 2 today, plus a walk, 2 stolen bases, a run scored, and a run driven in. So the Wizard having a good day at the plate, and of course the normal good day in the field. Strike one. The amazing thing about Coleman and his speed, he played football in college, but he was a punter. What a waste. He should have been returning him rather than kicking him.
He was smarter than that.
Well, one reason he didn't play regularly is because he's not very big.
Ozzie Smith hit exactly 280 the first half of the season last year and exactly 280 the second half. Before and after the All-Star game, he was identical.
You know, he was the model of consistency. In fact, Ozzie had to be the only Cardinal in the lineup that was consistent at all last season. One of Whitey Herzog's biggest problems was that he never seemed to be able to get two guys hot with the bat at the same time. He couldn't put anything together offensively.
Well, their start killed him last year. There's no doubt about it.
Off-speed pitch for a strike. Coleman did not go, and the count 0-2 to Ozzie Smith. Way outside, and it gets away from Carter, and Coleman won't have to steal it. He'll get it on what may be scored a wild pitch.
I would think that would have to be a wild pitch.
Carter could barely get the webbing of his glove on it.
That ball was way up and away. Tough pitch to handle there, especially when you're looking for something hard down and in.
So now Coleman at second in scoring position with one out. The count 1-2 to Smith. And Coleman going to third as the ball is popped up on the right side. Mazzilli in foul territory makes the catch, and Coleman has to hustle back and makes it just in time. Howard Johnson did a good job of decoying Ozzie Smith Vince Coleman at third base. And Coleman almost didn't make it back.
One of the big things about it is Coleman has also got his head down. He never took a peek at all. Never took a peek. If it wasn't for the third base coach yelling at him, he would have never known what to do. And again, if you'll pardon the pun, that's a cardinal mistake.
Certainly is. But he's still at second. 2 out now, and Tom Herr, the batter, who is 1 for 3. Herr with a triple to drive in a run in the 5th, and he later scored on a sacrifice fly by Jack Clark when the Cardinals scored their 3 runs. Ball 1.
A lot of times the real base stealers, they just put their heads down and go get them. I just don't think that's right. I think you have to build into that the ability to take that quick little peek to make sure you know what happens to the ball.
That's high, and it's 2-0. Well, especially when a guy makes contact, you'd think he would have heard the ball hit the bat, and that would have caused you to take a look anyway.
It's a lack of discipline in training, I feel. And because the guy steals so many bases, they just accept it of him.
Myers again high with a fastball, and it's now 3-0 to Tom Herr. Ron Darling went the first 6 innings. Charged with 3 runs on 6 hits. He struck out 4 and walked 3, and the pitchers are going through their stretching routine.
Maybe they're waiting for that waiter that was on top of the dugout to bring some more food out there. They just settled around a circular table there waiting for the lobster.
Bring it on. So on 4 straight pitches, Myers walks Tom Herr, and that puts runners at first and second with 2 out and brings up Jack Clark. And Carter now will have a brief conversation with Randall.
Randy Myers has been working a lot on a changeup. He hasn't used it as much this spring. Trying to make a ball club, I guess you just have to go with your strengths. But if he can learn to bring that changeup into his group of pitches, it certainly will help him, especially against a real tough fastball hitter like a Jack Clark.
Well, he has such a good fastball, which he gets over for a strike to Clark. he has been very effective in the minor leagues with it, but in the big leagues, you got to have some off-speed stuff, because as you look at Terry Leach warming, no matter how fast or hard you throw, big league hitters are sooner or later going to catch up with you. 1-1. Clark has grounded to third and struck out. He also drove in a run with a sac fly to center, 0 for 2.
Not even Nolan Ryan can throw that fastball by the real good hitters all the time.
Nope.
They know that fastball's coming. Major league hitters, they're going to put the bat on the ball.
I wonder if there had really been a Sid Finch, if he could have thrown it past big league hitters. Myers high again, 2-1.
What did they have him down, 120-something miles an hour? Was it even more than that?
I think it was in the 136 or some ridiculous speed.
That's one area of baseball that I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of difference in. And most things in athletics, speed and strength, athletes of today, you know, have just set bigger and better records. But throwing a baseball, it's tough. Get past that 100-mile-an-hour mark too much.
3-1 now. Well, the mechanics of the thing are limited. I mean, the physical limitations, I think, are set partially by the fact that it's pretty much an unnatural movement to begin with. Clark with a big cut on the 3-1 fastball, and it's 3-2.
Jack Clark certainly has a good ripple at this one. He is underneath the ball, as we keep talking from time to time. That little uppercut on a good fastball.
And he's saying to himself right now, how did I miss it?
He didn't drive it. He tried to lift it.
Ball 4 with the runners going, and the bases are loaded with 2 out. Myers has walked the last 2 batters. And Jim Lindeman, who is 0 for 3, will stand in.
And again, Jim Lindeman, an obvious better fastball hitter than anything else. He will get a chance right here.
Lindeman leading the Cardinals with 19 RBIs on the spring, 6 home runs and a .370 average at the start of play today. Batting with the bases loaded and 2 out. And he holds up and takes the ball inside.
I believe that 19 RBIs set a Cardinal record for spring training.
I believe you are correct. It's no...
He certainly has a chance here to add to it. And he's going to get a fastball here.
But it's low and away, and it's 2-0. So Randy Myers struggling a little bit here in the 7th inning. The Cardinals leading 3-2, but they have the bases loaded with 2 out.
Third base coach Nick Leva giving him that little hand out over the middle of the bag there, telling him to get a good pitch to hit. He's going to get another fastball here. And if he does, and it's in that strike zone, he's going to take a cut at it.
It was, and he did, and he lofts it down the right field line. Mookie Wilson coming hard, and the ball is foul. Just foul, or at least 2 runners would have scored.
That ball was close. The big swing. Doesn't get it, gets it down on the handle a little bit. And the ball just hits foul, I guess about a foot. They call it a game of inches. That was a little bit more than inches, but luck does play a part in it, doesn't it?
And it works both ways. Luck is impartial. Or was it that Branch Rickey said, luck is the residue of design?
Well, I think sometimes that can be true when you're prepared to do things, but how a ball's going to fall down, I don't go along with that.
3-1 now, as again, Myers is out of the strike zone with a fastball. You got a little indication of how hard Myers can throw, because Lindeman had to be looking for the fastball and still almost got jammed on that ball he hit off the trademark that was just foul. This time he drives it in the air to right, but Mookie Wilson is back in there to end the inning. A hit, 2 walks, and the bases loaded and left here in the 7th inning for St. Louis. So after 6.5, it remains the Cardinals 3 and the Mets 2. And we're back after this for your Lincoln Mercury dealer. Well, Rusty and I were talking earlier about opening day 2, and we invite you to join the Mets as they celebrate their traditional opening day 2 on Thursday afternoon, April 9th, against the Pirates. Opening day 2, which promises to be almost as exciting as opening day itself, is also Sony Tape World Champs Keychain Day, as all fans in attendance will receive a keychain commemorating the Mets' 1986 World Championship. Opening day 2 also marks the return of Rodney Dangerfield. I'll tell you, he'll be on hand to show his respect for the world champs, and there will also be an exciting schedule of opening day 2 activities. Tickets are available at all Ticketron outlets at Shea Stadium's advanced ticket window, or call 718-507-TIXX for more ticket information. Catch all the excitement of Sony Tape World Champs Keychain Day on opening day 2, Thursday, April 9th, and see the world champs play baseball like it ought to be.
And when the Mets play the Atlanta Braves on Saturday and Sunday, April 11th and 12th, it'll be Snapper Calendar Weekend. All fans both days will receive a full-color 1987 team calendar featuring memorable moments of the Mets' 1986 championship season. The calendar also includes a full-color pull-out team poster of the 1986 World Champions, all courtesy of Snapper Lawn and Garden Equipment. Tickets are available at all Ticketron outlets, Shea Stadium's advanced ticket window, or call 718-507-TIXX for more information. Don't forget it. It's Snapper Calendar Weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 11th and 12th of April.
Well, we're going to the bottom of the 7th, and Randy Myers, who struggled in the top half of the 7th, having a talk with his mentor, pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre. And it looks like the mechanics of the thing are being discussed rather fully.
Well, I'm sure Mel is going to take his time, trying to make sure Randy understands a lot of things. With a young pitcher like him, some things are mechanical, trying to rush himself. A lot of times with a young pitcher, though, the mind is the best thing that you can conquer.
And Ken Daly is the new pitcher, replacing Danny Cox for the Cardinals.
Ken Daly has not pitched hardly at all in spring training. This is, I believe, the first or second time. I think it's the first time he's actually come out on the mound. He's come off a year where he's had major surgery on his arm, and this is one of the few times I think he's thrown this spring.
And he'll be facing Kevin McReynolds, Howard Johnson, and Rafael Santana for New York. St. Louis leading 3-2 in the bottom of the 7th inning. McReynolds 0 for 2, flied to center and grounded into an inning-ending force play, and he takes the ball outside.
I don't think he's even thrown in B games, Steve. I think this is the first time he's been out there.
Ball 2. Well, the Cardinals need some help on the mound. Jeff Lottie has been placed on a 60-day emergency disabled list after missing all of last season with shoulder problems. 2-1. And at this late date in spring training, the Cardinals really are still unsure as to the makeup of their bullpen. So this could be a very important outing, not only for Ken Daly, but for the Cardinals. 3-1 now to McReynolds. Strike called, 3-2.
Daly was such a big part of the bullpen with Lottie in their championship season of 1985. They sorely missed him last year.
Well, those left-handed relievers are at a premium, and in fact, you know, Rusty, the Cardinals this year could wind up with 6 left-handers on their staff among the 10 that they would take north if they do in fact take 10. Well hit to left. Landrum going back, and all he can do is watch as it's a home run just inside the foul pole. And McReynolds ties the game with his first home run of the spring and his first in the Met uniform.
Well, when he hit that ball, there was absolutely no doubt as Kevin McReynolds crosses home plate. Shakes hands with Howard Johnson. That ball is ashed. Absolutely no doubt, particularly with this wind, that ball was going out of the ballpark.
And Tim McCarver points out that Ken Daly gave up only one home run in all of 1986. That was to Mike Marshall of the Dodgers. And here, his first hitter, Kevin McReynolds, takes him deep. And now Howard Johnson, who doubled and scored his last time up, looks at the ball outside.
What's the old expression? Welcome back to the big leagues.
A rude welcome.
That is. That's like a slap in the face.
Ball 2. Whitey in his normal stoic pose, peering out through the sunglasses. And it's high and away again, 3-0. And Howard checks things out with Sam Perlazzo, the third base coach, to see if, in fact, he'll be able to hack at this one.
I don't think Whitey Herzog will be so relaxed on Tuesday when they open up.
3-1.
This is the last day that a manager can sit back and kind of say, well, it really makes no difference whether we win or lose this game. Rourke, the pitching coach, sitting next to him.
Foul back, and it's 3-2. Well, I think right now, as we just discussed, they're probably more concerned with the way Ken Daly looks and performs here than about this ball game at the moment. But it's tied at 3 as McReynolds leads off here in the 7th with a home run. Another one fouled back, still 3-2. McReynolds, after a horrendous start, and really the first 3 quarters of spring training offensively were really slow for Kevin at the plate. He's entered this game over the last 4 games hitting .462. He's now driven in 5 runs in the last 4 games. And Howard Johnson draws a walk, so he'll be at first base still with nobody out. And McReynolds may be getting it going at the perfect time.
He has certainly swung the bat well. Coming into this game today, in the last 4 games, he was 6 for 13, so he's certainly got it going.
Rafael Santana 0 for 2 struck out and was robbed of a base hit on a diving catch by Jim Lindemann in right field back in the 5th. And with the runner going, he fouls it off for strike 1. Mike Laga is into the game at first base, replacing Jack Clark for St. Louis. And I had read a report that Laga had been assigned to the AAA club. But either that was incorrect or premature.
I don't know. A lot of people have been coming back and forth on a lot of different clubs this year.
Oh, you're not kidding. Santana to bunt, and it's a good one. Pendleton bare hands it, but can't get enough on the throw. It one-hops Laga, and he does a good job to keep it in front of him in the field of play to keep Howard Johnson from going to third on the play. It'll probably go as a base hit.
I think it should be a base hit. An excellent move by Rafael Santana. Just a perfect bunt. He's got to make a great play to even have a chance there, and the ball is in the dirt, and Laga cannot come up with it. So with no one out, and men on first and second, and it's all yours, Steve.
Mookie Wilson, the hitter. As you see it one more time, a throw short hopping Laga at first. So the Mets have runners at first and second, still nobody out. Then Mookie Wilson, who came into the game in right field for Darryl Strawberry, was inserted in the 9th spot in the batting order. Mookie's having a fine spring, batting for the first time and bunting, and it's hard to Pendleton, who goes to Smith at shorts, covering third to get the force play on Johnson for the first out of the inning. Pendleton charging very well, and the ball just bunted too hard.
It certainly was. He was anticipating the play. There's no chance here. The Mets actually were lucky they had the great speed of Mookie Wilson, and that could have been a double play. And it's Jose Oquendo
who's at short, and not Ozzie Smith. And the batter will be Len Dykstra with runners at first and second now with 1 out. And Dykstra 1 for 3. He had an RBI double his last time up. And a fastball for strike 1. Also defensively, Tom Herr out of the game and Tom Lawless in at second base. Fouled away, and it's 0-2. Cardinals infield looking for the double play with 1 out. Santana at second and Mookie Wilson at first. Be tough unless the ball's hit hard at somebody with Mookie at first and Dykstra running from the left side at home plate.
And I'll tell you, Lenny Dykstra feels real good about having driven in the run the last time up with a double. Hit the ball hard to center field the second time up. Been struggling most of the spring and just trying to get that his batting style and his act together before the season opens up.
And, go ahead, Russ.
Well, the timing was definitely off for Dykstra. There's no doubt he was pressing a little bit mentally. This game, I don't care how long you play it, that mental aspect will jump all over you.
This game can humble you in a heartbeat. Dykstra entered the game hitting only 190 this spring. Fouls another one off, and it's still 1-2.
I always think that when someone's in a slump, one of the great things that could happen with all the taping machines they have, if they could take a group of pictures of all the times you were doing well, or look at the film of the playoffs and the World Series and the exciting moments, just to get somebody fired up. A lot of times adrenaline and, you know, when someone's down, to be able to get their mental attitude in the right direction. Little mental games can help.
Keith Hernandez has said that looking at videotapes of himself when he's hitting well has helped him when he's struggled. High and tight, and it's 2-2 to Dykstra.
To be able to look at both when you're going well and when you're having a problem period, a slump it is called, as much as no one ever wants to hear that word. It's got to help you if you're studying yourself.
You know, there aren't that many guys, though, Rusty, that will look at videotape when they're going well. They only come for help when they feel they need it. Maybe more slumps could be avoided if guys, you know, kept a closer tab on how they were looking at the plate from day to day.
Now, I think understanding why you got a hit each time up and why you made an out each time you don't get a hit is important. It makes you understand yourself. If you don't understand yourself, hitting coaches aren't going to be able to help you that much. They can give you some direction. They can give you some things maybe that you might have done something, you got hurt and you're doing something mechanically wrong. Or if you're just doing something blatantly mechanically wrong, you know, anybody can see that.
3-2 to Dykstra now. 1 out, runners at first and second, and a 3-3 tie here in the bottom of the 7th.
But if you don't really know why you're doing well and why you're doing poorly, you're in trouble. You're lost.
Ball 4. Well, Dykstra did well that time. He battled back from an 0-2 count. Fouled off some tough pitches from the left-hander Daly and picked up the walk to load the bases. Still 1 away, and the batter will be Wally Backman as Mike Rourke is out. And they're going to make a change.
Might be Ricky Horton coming in.
And it is. Yet another left-hander out of the St. Louis bullpen.
And here I thought the only reason why Whitey did all that stuff all those years, getting all those left-handers in, was because I was in the league.
Well, while the pitching change is made, Horton for Daly will take a timeout and be back after this for Manufacturers Hanover. Tim Tuffle batting for Wally Backman against Ricky Horton with the bases loaded and 1 out. Tuffle hitting .200 on the spring with 1 home run and 3 RBIs. And the count 2-0. Ricky Horton, making his 6th appearance of the spring, has a 1-0 record with a 5.54 ERA and 1 save. He's worked 13 innings. Fastball popped up in foul territory. Steve Lake off of the mask makes the catch, 2 away. And a big out for the Cardinals as the bases remain loaded now with 2 out. That'll bring up Lee Mazzilli batting for the first time after replacing Keith Hernandez at first base. And Maz has had an outstanding spring training with the bat. Started hot and has stayed pretty much that way all spring long. He's hitting .439, 3 home runs to tie Howard Johnson for the club lead. He has 11 RBIs and has stolen 3 bases. And the fact that Maz came to spring training back in January has really paid off, apparently. And he looks at ball 1. Went too far, says Frank Pulley. 1-1.
Rick Horton's another one of the pitchers who has really learned how to use that off-speed turnover-like changeup pitch. He's been very, very effective with it.
Ground ball to short. Oquendo gets a nice high hop and throws over to her at second to retire the side. But the Mets pick up 1 run on the leadoff home run by Kevin McReynolds. They do, however, leave the bags full. We're tied at 3 after 7 complete. Tim McCarver comes in, and we say adieu to Rusty Staub, and we're back after this in just a minute. Terry Leach, the 3rd New York pitcher of the afternoon, replacing Randy Myers here as we go to the 8th inning, tied at 3 here in St. Petersburg. Leach, a record of 0-0, and he has not given up an earned run in 9 innings of work. This is his 6th appearance of the spring. He's given up just 5 hits in 9 innings, walked 1 and struck out 5. And as we go to the 8th, the Air Force Thunderbirds put on their outstanding air show over the skies of the Bay Area here as a part of the Festival of States weekend in the Tampa St. Pete area. And a guy who always makes it a festival wherever he goes.
Now, wait a minute.
Tim McCarver.
Mike Laga batting for the first time, and he promptly grounds 1 to Tim Tuffle in there at second base. So 1 pitch by Terry Leach, and Tuffle does the job. 3-3 ball game. The Mets with 7 hits and the Cards with 6. And the batter, Tito Landrum. Terry Lee, Tito Landrum. He's 0 for 2 on the afternoon. He walked in the 2nd, popped a second in the 4th, and flied to left in the 6th inning. And a fastball for a strike.
Tito may be the only guy ever to come out of Joplin, Missouri, named Tito.
Ground ball towards Santana. He'll have to hurry. He couldn't get it out of his glove, and now throws it away. Gary Carter alertly backing up the play to hold Landrum to first base, and he's there. It'll probably be a base hit, even though Santana couldn't get the ball out of his glove.
Well, it's a tough play, even if it's fielded cleanly, and Landrum runs pretty well. You can see how far Santana is. He's well behind third baseman Howard Johnson. And when he had a problem getting the ball out of the glove, he apparently never did get a good grip on the ball. And that's why the throw just took off. You see Mazzilli's futile effort to flag it down, but as you said, Tim, because Carter was there, Landrum couldn't advance.
It is yet to be scored. Terry Pendleton, the batter, with Landrum at first. Hit and run situation. And a fastball outside. 1-0 to Terry Pendleton. Jesse Orozco warming for the Mets. Fastball outside. The Cardinals have 4 stolen bases in this ball game. Ozzie Smith with a couple. Tony Pena with 1. And Willie McGee had a stolen base. Carter has caught one stealing today. There goes Landrum, lined in the left, base hit. And the hit and run was on. Landrum coasts into third base. And the Cardinals have runners at the corners and only one away here in the 8th inning of this tie ball game.
Well, the hit and run executed to perfection. And Pendleton doing a good job of not trying to do too much with the pitch. Goes with it, serves it to left.
That is a key point, Steve.
Especially on the hit and run.
Yes, sir. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of managers will put the hit and run on for a player unusually, even though there's risk involved in the play. But for a player that's struggling, because it forces him to keep his head on the ball because he realizes he's got to make contact. So Pendleton gets his first hit of the year, of the day, and here's Jose Oquendo. Jose batting from the left side. Fastball outside from Terry Leach, 1-0.
The Mets are donating a portion of the proceeds of this ball game to the All Children's Hospital here as sort of a farewell gift, since it's their last home game in St. Petersburg. And with the attendance of 6,477, that means almost $13,000 will go to the hospital.
Fastball outside, 2-0 to Jose Oquendo. Jose batting right-handed against Ron Darling, a right-handed pitcher. Now he swings around to the left side against Terry Leach.
I guess it depends on what type of pitcher he's facing.
Might be because it's a bunting situation, possibly, if Whitey Herzog elects to go to the squeeze. There goes the runner. The throw to second. Safe at second base. That's the 5th stolen base of the day for the Cardinals.
Pendleton picks up the steal, his first of the spring, and the ball just sails on Gary Carter. Santana able to knock it down, or it probably would have gone into the outfield and allowed Landrum to score from third.
So that brings the infield in with runners at second and third now, 1 out, tie ball game. Oquendo taking all the way, and he takes a strike, 3-1. This situation, even though the infield's in, you'll send the runner from third base because the worst that can happen is you have runners at first and third and 2 outs. Fastball outside. That's the first walk given up by Terry Leach. And the batter's going to be Vince Coleman. Coleman entering the game in the 6th inning, spelling Willie McGee. Steve, you mentioned Joplin, Missouri, and Tito being the only major league player out of there by the name of Tito. Another guy who lives there, whose name, probably the only name of a guy living in that town, named Mickey Mantle, who Mickey actually has a home in Joplin, Missouri now, and has had it for many, many years. Lives in Dallas. That's his permanent home, but they still own the home in Joplin. Pretty good major league ball player. 0-1 to Coleman.
Well, Mickey is originally from Commerce, Oklahoma, which is just across the border from Joplin, Missouri, and Oklahoma. And in fact, when he was first signed out of Commerce, Oklahoma, the first team he was sent to was Joplin, Missouri. So I guess that really does have a lot of ties for the Mick.
Infield playing in, an interesting diversion from the normal infield play, but the reason they're playing in is you can't double up Vince Coleman unless he hits a rocket somewhere.
That's playing the percentages. In this case, playing the percentages. Normally, playing the percentages would be going for the double play.
Right. Bases loaded, and this one tapped foul. So it's 1-2 to Vince Coleman.
And a nice grab by the guy in the white hat, barehanded.
So Coleman in the hole, 1 out, bases loaded, 3-3 ball game. There you see the infield in. outside, so it's 2-2 to Coleman. Leach will be the 10th pitcher on the Mets roster to go north. Two pitch. Just got a piece of it. Terry Leach really a contact pitcher, and this is a tough situation for him. He throws a sinker. Coleman often hits that sinker into the ground. The high chopper, you're not going to get anybody. Cardinals wished Coleman would do that more often. Leach steps off. To utilize his speed, he only hit 233 last year. Outside, ball 3. 3-2 to Vince Coleman. Grounded toward first. Mazzilli home, and Carter not making any throw to first base, obviously because of the same reason that the infield was in, and that's why you play him in. No way to double up Coleman, and Mazzilli comes home to Carter. 2 outs.
Well, this time playing the percentages pays off, even though it's not the normal percentages because of Coleman. The percentages changed because of Coleman, and they were able to get the out anyway.
So a fielder's choice by Vince Coleman, and the batter Steve Lake. Grounded toward third, fair ball by Johnson. 2-run score. Here comes Coleman. He's going to score. The Cardinals lead it 6-3.
Well, the best way to take care of whatever percentages you might be playing is to have a bases loaded double. And a big 2-out base hit by Steve Lake, batting for the first time in the ball game. Of course, Lake coming over to the Cardinals from the Chicago Cubs. And he ended the game hitting .417 this spring. He had driven in 9 runs prior to that. So he now has 12 RBIs.
Tommy Herr, the batter. Still 2 outs. Lake at second base. Cardinals leading it by 3. And a check swing fouled off. Lake really an interesting story. He was the backup catcher for the Cubs last year. Outrighted to Iowa April 24th. And he came back on the 8th of June, outrighted again July 11th, elected not to report, declared free agency, and wound up with the Cardinals AAA affiliate, Louisville, and has made the ball club this year. Strike 2. 0-2 to Tommy Herr.
And he, along with Pena, now give the Cardinals a pretty nice catching combination.
Pena obviously catching the majority of the games, 130 or so, which is a good full season for a catcher. 1-2 to Tommy Herr. Cardinals lead 6-3. 3 in the 5th, 3 here in the 8th. The Mets with single runs in the 4th, 5th, and 7th. Herr fouls another one off. Back on the air at 1:30 tomorrow from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. That'll be the Phillies and the Mets going at each other, the last spring game. And then, of course, opening day on Tuesday against the Pirates. Popped up, Carter back, and he makes the catch. But the Cardinals come up with 3 runs on 3 hits. They strand a runner and lead 6-3, middle of the 8th. We'll be back after this word from Bud Light. Bottom of the 8th inning, the Mets trailing by 3. And Gary Carter, the batter. Gary 0 for 2 on the afternoon. He flied to center, sacrifice fly in the 4th inning. And he grounded to short. Sacrifice fly, something that Gary Carter is not unfamiliar with. 1-0 to Gary Carter.
Having set the New York Mets club record last year in that department.
Fouls this one back. It's 1-1 to Gary.
And that wasn't his first good year as far as sacrifice flies are concerned. Gary has not hit for a high average this spring and entered the game at only .226, but he's hit the ball hard.
And he does it again. Drill to left field. So Carter is on there to lead off the 8th, and the batter will be a pinch hitter for pitcher Terry Leach.
Let's take a look at Carter's swing. This is a prototypical Gary Carter swing right here. He doesn't care if it's outside. He's going to pull it. And he gets a good part of the bat using those strong wrists and lines it right down the left field line.
And the batter will be Barry Lyons. Kind of a nice honor before the game today for Barry. Voted by the scribes here in St. Pete, the New York writers, as the New York Met that had the best spring, and he certainly has.
Met rookie who had the best
Met
spring,
rookie, right. Beg your pardon. Barry batting .289 this spring with 1 home run, 8 RBIs. 2-0 to Barry Lyons. Ricky Horton, the pitcher for the Cardinals. He's the 3rd Cardinal pitcher today. Lifted down the right field line, and it's a foul ball. 2-1.
Jack O'Connell of the Daily News, who is the chapter president of the Baseball Writers Association in New York, made the presentation to Barry before the ball game here today, and it's called the John J. Murphy Memorial Award, symbolic of the Mets' top rookie in spring training each year. He's in some pretty heady company with people like Strawberry and Gooden and those who have won it in the past.
Popped up in the infield. Tommy Herbeck. Tough play for Tom because of the wind and the sun. So Lyons is out of there, and the batter will be Kevin McReynolds, who homered his last time up. He's 1 for 3 on the afternoon. Kevin's first home run of the spring, so he is peaking at the right time. Outside for a ball. 1 ball and no strikes to Kevin McReynolds.
Kevin is a notorious slow starter, but he's hoping that that's not the case when the regular season begins. Be doubly tough changing clubs in a well-publicized trade, coming to a world championship team, and you add on top of that the media and the number of fans in New York. And if he has his traditional slow start, it could heap a lot of pressure on him.
You're telling me that there's more media attention in New York than San Diego? 2-1 to Kevin McReynolds.
Hard to believe, isn't it? Truly amazing.
Almost hit him. 3-1. Mets trail by 3. Bottom of the 8th inning. Is San Diego really the antithesis of New York? Laid back Southern California. Ground ball towards short. Could be 2. Oquendo to her. An easy double play. No runs ahead and none left after 8. 6-3 St. Louis. We go to the 9th after this word from Sunoco.
Well, we're going to the ninth inning with St. Louis leading at 6-3. And we mentioned a moment ago that the proceeds from this ball game were going to the All Children's Hospital here in St. Louis. The man on your right is Mets Vice President Al Harrison, who is presenting a check to the hospital for $12,760 because of the crowd of 6,477 here. The Mets half of the proceeds going to the hospital today, and that was well greeted with a round of applause by the local folks. Jesse Orozco into the game to pitch the ninth, the fourth New York pitcher of the afternoon.
Jesse's 11th game. He's second to Doug Sisk. That's 11 games this spring. And the reason that he pitches with frequency down here is because he's a relief pitcher and usually goes about 1 inning, 2 at the most.
And Kurt Ford batting for the first time will be the first hitter Jesse faces, and Ford takes a ball up and away. Ford into the game in right field, replacing Lindemann. And on the spring is hitting only 143. He's had 5 hits and 35 times up. Slices one to left, and that's going to be in the corner for extra bases. His 6th hit of the spring as McReynolds tracks it down. It'll be a leadoff double for Ford. That is also the 11th Cardinal hit. And Rick Horton, the batter. And we'll see if Ricky will be bunting, as one would expect. Mazzilli in on the grass at third, and Johnson, or rather at first, and Johnson in at third. And he bunts it hard. Jesse Orozco goes to third, but there's no force. And Johnson was unable to come back and make the tag. So Ford, who runs well, gets over to third, and Horton is safe at first on the fielder's choice.
Well, that was a bad play, and I think the fault of a play like this lies on the catcher. The catcher is the one who can make the call because he's the only one who can call the play. Seeing it, Orozco going immediately to third, and even with a good throw, they don't have Kurt Ford. Remember, that is not a force play. You got to make the tag with just a runner on second base.
And Barry Lyons, the catcher now, obviously less experienced than Gary Carter, may have called for Orozco to go to third. So with first and third and nobody out and the Mets down by 3, they have the infield in again here in the 9th inning. And it's a ball to Mike Laga. Laga in his first at bat grounded to second. Time called for some reason. Now Frank Pulley's trying to get Laga back into the batter's box.
Well, Laga was out because it was windy. Some dust was flying into his eyes. Frank wants out of here. It's that simple.
A half-hearted swing for a strike as it's 1-1. It is a little nippy, and the sun now diminishing in its presence, and the wind still blowing, and it's getting a little cool. Frank's also working without a jacket. Way outside. 2 balls, 1 strike. This weather has been like that, like it has been the last couple of days, to get us primed for the trip north.
That's right.
2-2 now. Unseasonably cool here in Florida after about 4 or 5 days of unbelievable downpour over last weekend. And he struck him out. So Orozco with a sweeping breaking ball against the left-handed hitter picks up his first strikeout and the first out here in the 9th inning. So runners still at first and third.
Mike Laga on the sailing fastball. If you remember, Mike Laga, the player last year who became the only player ever to hit a ball out of Busch Stadium.
Only
remember
was
that
foul.
launch? Only was foul. Hit it out of the ballpark.
Clear over the roof outside the first base bag, and it landed in a planting area in the middle of the street. How it missed the cars going by, no one knows. Tito Landrum 1 for 3 plus a walk, credited with an infield base hit back in the 8th inning. And it's high, 2-0. Cardinals lead 6-3 with 1 out in the top of the 9th inning. Runners at first and third. And a fastball grounded in the hole for a base hit to left, and the Cardinals lead 7-3 as Kurt Ford scores from third. Rick Horton down to second. And with 1 out, the Cardinals with runners at first and second.
Tito Landrum's second base hit, this one scoring a run. Lee Mazzilli over to talk to Orozco now. I really don't know why. Barry Lyons out to talk to Jesse. Heading back to New York for an overnight stay this week, and ran into Mr. and Mrs. Lee Mazzilli coming from Florida, going back up to the New York area. Lee, of course, from Brooklyn.
They are great fans, aren't they?
They certainly are.
Terry Pendleton lifts one deep to center. Dykstra goes back over into left center and makes the catch. Horton tagging up, goes back to second and will advance to third, and Landrum advances to second. So the ball hit deeply enough to where both runners are able to move up to be at second and third now with 2 out.
That was a pretty good base running play by Ricky Horton and Tito Landrum. Even though they were off halfway, they scampered back to tag up because Dykstra was going back. It's so important, and base runners pick up on things like that, to notice the outfielders, what position they're in when they make the catch. If they're backpedaling, it takes them a while to get their body going forward again to make a good throw, and Horton and Landrum took advantage of it.
Jose Oquendo pops one up on the left side. Santana and Johnson both going for it. Santana just does make the catch as he calls off Howard Johnson. And the inning is over. But the Cardinals pad their lead with a run here in the 9th. And we will go to the bottom of the 9th inning with St. Louis leading New York 7-3 after this. Steve Zabriskie and Tim McCarver, along with Ralph Kiner and Rusty Staub from Al Lang Stadium for the final home appearance here of the New York Mets, as Port St. Lucie will be home spring training wise starting next season. Nice hat, looks like a turkey gobbler there. In fact, 150 Mets fans are here from Port St. Lucie today. They bust over to see the ball game and sort of, I guess, provide a transitional affair for the Mets' final home game here to their first home game, which will be in March of 1988 at Port St. Lucie. Howard Johnson leads it off against Rick Horton and takes the ball. St. Louis leading by 4, 7-3 here in the bottom of the 9th. Hojo 1 for 2. He doubled and scored and walked. And he rips it into left field for a base hit. Landrum chasing it down, and Johnson will have a double. His second double of the day.
Well, the first double was from the left side, and the second double from his weaker side, which is the right side. Not nearly as effective from the right side as he is a left-handed hitter.
Here's Rafael Santana, who's 1 for 3. He had a bunt base hit in the 7th. And he looks at a ball outside. Raffy also robbed of a hit when Jim Lindeman made a diving catch in right field back in the 5th. 1-1. The New York York Mets have not been able to beat the St. Louis Cardinals this spring. They have played to a tie in 10 innings, but the Cardinals are 2-0. Base hit off the glove of Pendleton. Johnson will try to score, and he'll make it. Santana will go into second as the ball rolled into no man's land between Landrum and Pendleton in foul territory down the left field line. And it goes an RBI, two-base hit for Rafael Santana.
Santana swinging the bat with more authority this spring than he did all of last year. He's really been swinging the bat well, hitting the ball sharply. Johnson scores easily. Of course, when you try to score and your team's down by 4 in the bottom of the 9th, you better make it easily. No close calls, because Howard Johnson's run, for the most part, means nothing.
It's a 7-4 ball game, however, and Mookie Wilson, the hitter. Ball 1 low and away. Mookie, in an attempt to bunt in the 7th inning, reached on a fielder's choice when the Cardinals retired Howard Johnson at third. Ripped foul, and the count 1-1. Down 2-1, and Mike Rourke, the pitching coach, out for a word with Rick Horton.
And you kind of know what Mike is going to talk about. It's the basic stay on top, which a lot of pitching coaches really talk about, but you could really see it the last time when Horton dropped down. And if you don't stay on top, you don't get the downward movement on that sinker. You get a flat movement on it, and that flat movement took Steve Lake way out of the catcher's box then to catch that sailing or tailing fastball from Ricky Horton. A lot of slingers have that problem, and that's what Ricky Horton is. He is a slinger and not a guy with a nice, smooth, fluid motion.
And Mets fans would have an idea by looking at Sid Fernandez, who has also trouble getting on top sometimes.
Kind of pushes uphill, a little bit differently in that Fernandez almost looks like he's pitching uphill. Horton being a slinger, where the line was his foot hits the ground before his arm comes around. That's characteristic of most guys who sling the ball like that. See, he wasn't on top of that pitch.
And the pitch before was called a strike, even though it appeared to be outside. Mookie Wilson questioned Frank Pulley, so that with that ball, the count now full at 3-2. Foul outside the right field line. And the count's still full. Rafael Santana at second with nobody out in the bottom of the 9th and a run in for New York. 7-4, the Cardinals lead. Killed the third base coach, Sam Perlazzo. Sammy just did get out of the way of that rocket. The old heart's pumping, boy. Tough when you got a runner at second and you're the third base coach, because you've got to be keeping an eye on the runner as well. Ball 4 as Mookie works out a tough walk. Still nobody out. And now the Mets will have the tying run coming to the plate in the person of Len Dykstra. Dykstra 1 for 3 plus a walk, had an RBI double in the 5th inning. And Dykstra to bunt, almost. Took one in the ribs.
Now this is awfully close. Lenny had an idea about pushing it down toward third. Pendleton in, and because the Mets trail by 3, obviously Dykstra bunting for a base hit. No sacrifice intended.
Ball 2. Tim Tuffle on deck. to be followed by Lee Mazzilli. Runners at first and second with nobody out. Dykstra hits it high and deep to center field. Coleman drifting, makes the catch on the warning track. Santana tagging and going to third, but Wilson remaining at first now with one away.
One of the big reasons that players like to go north, there are many, many reasons, as you see Mike Rourke, who will probably make a pitching change here. But one of the big reasons is that they want a routine fly ball to be a routine fly ball. And that routine fly ball is anything but routine. It was an adventure in center for Vince Coleman.
Florida wind and sun. So race off into the game, and while he warms up, we'll take a break, but come back after this for your Lincoln Mercury dealer. Well, I don't know whether they're trying to get some extra sun or whether it's their attempt at rally caps, but some of the fans have their hats backwards. Soff is greeted by a base hit off the bat of Tim Tuffle. Santana scoring from third. And the Mets are making it tight here in the ninth inning. It is now a two-run ball game. 7-5.
Well, as his name would indicate, Ray Soff would like to have a lot of balls hit softly back through the box, but not so. Tim Tuffle had other ideas and hit a screaming Mimi, we used to call it. I mean, a BB back through the box.
I haven't heard that screaming Mimi for a while.
Screaming Mimi. Thing whistles as it goes by you.
I wonder who that was named after.
You got me, and I'm not going into it either.
No one we know. Lee Mazzilli, the hitter, and the off-speed delivery for strike one. One out, runners at first and second. And the winning run at home plate in the person of Mazzilli, who's had an outstanding spring. He's 0 for 1 in this ball game, having grounded into an inning-ending force play. And Clint Hurdle, you saw on deck. As the count is now 0-2 to Mazzilli. Fastball a little too tight. 1-2. Two and two. Off speed is high and away, and it's the full count. With one out and runners at first and second. Mookie Wilson running at second as a high drive into left center field. Landrum back, makes the catch, and now Wilson has to go back to second, and Tuffle, who was all the way around second, had to retouch the bag and go back to first. Now with two away. As Whitey takes it all in, a guy who played for him last season after being with the Mets 2 years ago, Clint Hurdle pinch hits for Jesse Orozco.
Clint, a favorite of Davey Johnson, having a good spring and has made the Raw Club. He will go north with the club.
And a strike call. Hurdle disagrees. Clint batting .357 this spring with 1 homer, 10 RBIs. And as Rusty Stubb mentioned earlier, his versatility, one of the big reasons why he'll be on the Major League roster. But you have to believe that had the Mets not had the problems they've had with Magadan, McDowell, and of course Dwight Gooden, Clint probably would be in AAA.
Even though while the 24-man roster, as opposed to the 25-man roster, may hurt an older player, it would help a guy like Hurdle. Because with the 24-man roster, you need a guy who's versatile, but not versatile in that particular style.
Well, he didn't like that call either, but Frank Pulley punches him out to end the ball game on a called third strike with the runs aboard for New York here in the bottom of the 9th inning. So Danny Cox picks up the victory, and it is his second of the spring. Terry Leach is the loser for New York, and he is 0-1 this spring as the Cardinals hold on to win it 7-5 here at Al Lang in the final New York home appearance at this ballpark. Tim and I'll be right back to wrap it up for you. Stay with us. The Cardinals win it 7-5, and we're back after this for Bud Light. Steve Zabriskie and Tim McCarver back with you at Al Lang Stadium, where the Cardinals have defeated the Mets 7-5 in spite of a New York comeback that fell short in the 9th inning. And the spring training with one game to go, for all intents and purposes, over, and the Mets unable to beat the Cardinals this spring. And Timmy, one thing that I think has been lost in the shuffle here amid all the things that have happened to the New York ball club is what the Phillies and the Cardinals have done to help themselves in an effort to catch the New York Mets. That, coupled with the early season problems, could mean a tighter National League East race.
Yeah, I guess you could say that the Mets have been weakened by subtraction, and the Cardinals and the Phillies have been strengthened by the addition primarily of Lance Parrish. As far as the Phillies are concerned, Tony Pena. It's interesting in that both are catchers, and I thought we chronicled well the problems that have beset the Mets over the last couple of weeks.
And, of course, what remains to be seen as far as how the Mets handle all of this on the field will be dealt with on opening day. But I really don't believe that in any way it's going to diminish what should be another outstanding year for New York.
I don't think it's going to diminish the New York ball club, but I do think that the Mets are starting the season considerably weaker than they would have liked, with losing Dwight Gooden this past week and Roger McDowell 8 days ago, and, of course, not having Dave Magadan. And I think Roger McDowell equally as important a cog in the Mets machine as Dwight Gooden. That's an arguable point, but here's a guy who was in 75 ball games last year with 22 saves and 14 wins.
And that's a lot of victories to be a part of. We'll be back with a final word here from Al Lang Stadium in just a minute, right after this for American Express.
The National League expanded to 10 teams in 1962. One of those teams, the Houston Astros. The other, of course, the New York Mets. Their spring training site since that time has been St. Petersburg, Florida. A lot of fine people down here in St. Petersburg, and they will be missed as the Mets move to Port St. Lucie, Florida, on the east coast of this fine state for the 1988 season, and we wish them a farewell to all the fine folks down here in St. Petersburg. New York Mets baseball has been brought to you by Bud Light, the light beer with the first name and taste. Everything else, after all, is just a light. By Nissan, who invites you to test drive the Go Anywhere Pathfinder at your Nissan dealers now. By Manufacturers Hanover, the financial source worldwide. By New Jersey Bell Yellow Pages. By the American Express card. Don't leave home without it. And by Burger King, where you get juicy flame-broiled burgers, the best food for fast time. Guests will receive a Master Mechanic 7 1/4-inch circular saw, belt sander, variable speed reversing drill, and a jigsaw exclusively from True Value hardware stores and home centers. And an Emerson 19-inch diagonal color television with auto control, also a color system. The executive producer of Mets Baseball 87 is Rick Miner, produced and directed by Bill Webb. And, folks, as we leave St. Petersburg, we go to Washington, D.C., and you'll have a chance to be with us tomorrow when the Mets take on the Philadelphia Phillies, live from RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C. at 1:30, right here on WOR. Mets Baseball 87 is a production of Channel 9 Sports. The announcers on the preceding telecast were approved and contracted for by Sterling Doubleday Enterprise, LP. Good day, everybody.